My chair's too low. Board of Trustees order at 7 p.m. on May 3rd, 2012. Please join me in standing as James Good leads the board's opening prayer.
Our loving Father, we are so thankful for this evening as we come here to attend to the affairs of this school district. We thank you for the opportunity to express our appreciation to our VIPs and businesses that make such an integral statement to our community, how important they are and the influence they have upon all of our students. Father, we are especially mindful as this school year comes to a close that you'll be with all of our students, give them the focus that they will be able to be extremely successful on all of their exams, and will have the opportunity to enjoy the summer and be eagerly prepared to come back next school year. Father, we're also thankful for all of the new administrative assignments, and that you'll bless those individuals with the focus, the encouragement that they will be highly successful with their student population. Help us always throughout as we deal with all of the affairs of the school district, that we will focus upon high achievement for all of our students and do all that we can to encourage them and support them. And bless us, Father, each and every day of our lives, for this is our prayer. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing as Richard Fleming leads the board in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. As a district, we dedicate all our efforts and resources to the education and preparation of all students. The board uses this mission to guide all deliberations, decisions, and actions. You will get to see all deliberations, decisions, and actions of the board in open session, with the exception of some items which may be discussed in a closed session as stipulated in the Texas Government Code, Section 551, commonly known as the Open Meetings Law. These items typically deal with personnel matters, consultation with our attorney, and real estate. For the record, the entire board is here. We do constitute a quorum and can conduct business on behalf of the district. With that said, Dr. Burns, we'll go to agenda item 1A, welcome and recognition of guests.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I kind of feel like this is the Maverick game. I mean, everybody's here, standing room only, so thank you for being here tonight. We do have a great agenda tonight. We're recognizing a lot of great students and teachers and business partners, as well as the rest of our board operation. But we'll begin with our VIP recognition first. And tonight, we will honor our newest members in the very important profession of teaching program. We've been honoring our VIPs for over 25 years. Our VIP program is our way of saying thank you to our professional staff for being innovative leaders in learning who diligently work to meet the needs of all our students. We want to recognize their efforts in making our schools a great place for quality learning to occur. To our honored guests, the Board of Trustees and the administration say thank you for being a member of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD team and for being an innovator who has a positive influence on the lives of students. Educators, please come forward when your principal introduces you to receive your certificate. If there are staff members, friends, and family here tonight to celebrate this recognition, please stand as your VIP is introduced. And now, Ms. Klein, would you join me in the front to recognize our honored guests?
Good evening, Dr. Burns, President Klein, members of the board. My name is Joe LaPuma, and I have the honor of being the principal at Creekview High School. We are here tonight to introduce you to our newest member in the very important profession of teaching, Mrs. Emily Johnson. After graduating from Baylor University in 2007, Emily began her teaching career at Creekview. Emily currently teaches Pre-AP English 1, English 2, and Avid 2. Yes, that means she gets an extra gold star for working with so many freshmen and sophomores at our campus. Emily is an active participant on the Campus Improvement Committee, the Instructional Rounds team, the Avid Site team, and she serves as a campus instructional facilitator. Last year, she was also a senior class sponsor and helped facilitate a successful prom and post-prom. When I asked a couple of Emily's ELA colleagues to share a few words about Emily, this is what they had to say. Emily embodies the energy, dedication, and compassion that should make up every teacher. For the past 5 years, Emily has been a driving energy within the freshman team at Creekview. She has an excitement and enthusiasm to enjoy every class despite the challenges they may pose, as sometimes we know teenagers can do. Emily uses her humor and her heart for her students to connect with them. She is loved by her students because they know she truly cares about them. She puts her whole heart into her calling as a teacher. Not only are her students drawn to her charisma and her inspiring attitude, but her colleagues also seek out her expertise and strategies to implement in their own lessons. Emily's department chair, Ms. Cheever, said this about her. What has stood out to me about Emily from the day I interviewed her is her heart for students. She creates an environment to challenge academically, but she also creates an environment to nurture. I believe that is what is needed in every teacher. She will address the students' academic needs, but also their personal needs. Emily embodies the creative, challenging, and caring community that defines Creekview High School. Of course, I spoke to a few students, and they raved about Mrs. Johnson. Some of the words that they used to describe her are as follows. An excellent teacher. She makes an effort in everything she does. She inspires me. She's dedicated to her job. She's a positive influence. She's an encourager. She has strong moral beliefs. She's intelligent. What an amazing person. She lights up a classroom. She reads kids so very well, and she's funny. Julio Espinosa summed it up when he said this. She shows each day that she loves her job and her students. I am privileged to have her as a teacher. Emily, thank you for all you do, and indeed, Creekview High School and CFB is very fortunate to have you in the very important profession of teaching.
Good evening. I'm David Hicks, principal at Ranchview High School, and I'm here tonight to recognize Megan Previer as a member of the very important profession of teaching. Megan joined the Carrollton-Farmers branch team in 2010, teaching geometry at Ranchview since that time. She is our math department instructional facilitator and holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in mathematics from Texas State University, where she graduated with high honors. Incidentally, she's also the junior class sponsor, and our prom is this weekend, so there seems to be a theme running in our VIPs. In nominating Megan for this recognition, her colleagues consistently identified some characteristics as those that make her such a special teacher. She is helpful to everyone, a true teacher leader, and a team player. Her room is a fun and engaging place, or as one of her colleagues described it, a classroom where something is always happening. Anytime you pass by, students are working together, and there is a quiet hum of conversation as they solve problems, challenge each other's thinking, and defend their answers. I respect and admire Megan because she is a believer in opportunities and possibilities. Most importantly, she is a believer in students. Always teaching with a smile, she builds their mathematical skills and confidence on a daily basis. She is an expert at breaking up the content into manageable pieces, explaining it in a way that is understandable, and challenging her students' thinking with concept-based application activities, and then celebrating their success. Doesn't hurt that she also tutors before and after school every day, and she's an expert at analyzing assessment data. Students enjoy her classes because they feel respected, challenged, and held accountable to very high performance standards. When I asked Megan's students what makes her an outstanding teacher, they used adjectives like intelligent, understanding, serious, witty, and then they gave her the supreme compliment from any high school student: she's everyone's favorite teacher. When I interviewed Megan for a position at Ranchview, I was immediately struck by her mathematical knowledge and her responses to my questions about student achievement and working in a professional learning community. I also remember talking to her former principal. His exact words to me: "She's the best teacher I've ever hired, bar none, and you're crazy if you let her leave your office without a job." I'm so thankful, Megan, that I did not let you leave my office that day. And Ranchview High School and Carrollton-Farmers branch are fortunate that you're an integral part of our instructional team. Thank you for sharing your talents with all of us at RHS, and congratulations on being a member of the very important profession of teaching.
For our next recognition tonight, we'll do National Merit Award recipients, and we'll begin our recognition of students who have been honored for their achievement in the National Merit Program, as well as other significant academic achievements. And first will be Creekview High School. Mr. LaPuma.
Creekview High School is pleased to honor a total of 8 students for 4 different achievements this evening. We have 6 commended scholars, 1 National Achievement Scholar, 1 National Hispanic Scholar, and 1 National Hispanic Scholar Honorable Mention recipient. We would like to recognize our students named as National Merit Commended students in the 2012 National Merit Scholarship Program. Of the more than 1.5 million students who entered this competition, only 34,000 commended students throughout the nation are being recognized for their exceptional academic promise. These students rank in the top 5% of all students who took the qualifying test. I am pleased to introduce 6 students from Creekview High School being recognized as National Merit Commended students. And I know some of them are here, some of them are not here, some of them are playing baseball, or at least one of them is. So this one I know is at Air Hog Stadium in the baseball playoffs against Highland Park, and his name is Ethan Abels. Ethan could not be here tonight because, like I said, he's in the playoffs, but Ethan is the son of Robin and Karen Abels, and I'm not sure if the parents are here. You never know. One's I think they're both educators, so they might be here. Ethan, he attended Kent and McCoy Elementary School, Perry and Blaylock Middle School, and Pierce High School in Richardson. Ethan is a varsity member of the Creekview baseball team and football team, where he was awarded All-District, All-State Academic. He is also a member of the Symphonic Orchestra. Ethan plans to attend SMU and major in business. Our second recipient is Jenny Cho. Jenny. Jenny, if you would come forward. Thank you. Jenny is the daughter of Gab Cho and Miriam Han. She attended River Chase Elementary, Lee Elementary, and Heritage Elementary in Plano, and Frankford Middle School in Plano. Jenny is a member of the Key Club, a volunteer with the American Red Cross, and a member of her youth group worship team. She plans to attend the University of Texas at Dallas and major in biomedical engineering. Jenny Cho. Our third recipient is Madeline Fink, Maddie. Madeline is the daughter of Andy Fink and Zeta de Graffenried. Maddie, are you here? She attended McCoy Elementary and DeWitt Perry Middle School. Maddie is a member of the National Honor Society and has served 4 years as Creekview Choir historian. She has been a member of our Legends Choir for 2 years, and she is actually at voice recital this evening. Maddie also received her Girl Scout Gold Award. Maddie will be attending the University of North Texas and major in the field of science, and that's Maddie Fink. Way to go, Maddie. Our fourth recipient is Abby Hall. Hi, Abby. I knew I saw you. Abby is the daughter of Brian and Lisa Hull. She attended Furneaux Elementary and Long Middle School. Abby served as chaplain for the Cheval's drill team and is currently the senior lieutenant. She has been a member of the Student Council for 4 years and also is a member of the National Honor Society. Abby plans to attend Belmont University and major in English Creative Writing. Abby Hull. Our fifth recipient is Ethan Parent. Unfortunately, Ethan could not be here this evening, but Ethan is the son of Mike Parent and Susan Parent. He attended Rosemead Elementary and Blaylock Middle School. Ethan is a member of the orchestra, choir, and is a member of the speech and debate team, state champion speech team, I may add. He plans to attend Westminster College and major in political science and business. Ethan Parent. Our sixth recipient is Alexandria Battle. Alexandria, are you here? Alexandria is the daughter of Vicky Battle. She attended Sheffield Primary and Intermediate School and Blaylock Middle School. She is a member of the National Honor Society and a cappella women's choir. She plans to attend either Cornell University or Wellesley College and major in computer science. In addition to being a commended scholar, Alexandria was also selected by the National Merit Corporation as a 2012 National Achievement Scholar. The National Achievement Scholarship Program is an academic competition established to honor Black American high school students. Of the more than 160,000 students who enter the program, 3,100 have been honored as outstanding participants by the National Merit Corporation. Alexandria Battle. The National Hispanic Recognition Program is conducted by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation as well, and this was established to identify outstanding Hispanic Latino high school students. This year, the program recognized nearly 5,000 of the highest scoring students in the United States and U.S. territories from a pool of over 200,000 individuals. I'm pleased to introduce the one student from Creekview High School being recognized by the National Hispanic Recognition Program and one student being recognized as a National Hispanic Recognition Honorable Mention. Our recognized Hispanic scholar is Angie Garcia. Angie is the daughter of Fernando and Virginia Garcia. She attended McLaughlin Elementary and Long Middle School. Angie is president of the Law and Criminal Justice Academy Board and participates in mock trial. She is also a member of the National Honor Society. She plans to attend Cornell University and major in government. Our next student being recognized as National Hispanic Scholar Honorable Mention is Velvet Lopez. Velvet is the daughter of Lino and Kathy Lopez. She attended Rainwater Elementary and Blaylock Middle School. Velvet is a member of the Creekview Band and a member of the National Honor Society. She plans to attend Texas A&M Commerce. Yes, we are obviously very proud of all of you. Please stand for a photo, and I'll jump in there. I would love to. Thank you.
Next, we'll have David Hicks from Ranchview High School. Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. Ranch View High School is pleased to honor 6 students this evening for academic achievement in many of the same categories that Mr. LaPuma described. Our first honoree, and I know most of our students are here, but there may be a couple that are not. Our first honoree is being recognized through the National Achievement Scholarship Program. Cardell Henry. I have not seen Cardell. So Cardell Henry. Cardell is the son of Courtney Henry. He attended J.O. Davis Elementary in Irving and Bush Middle School here in CFB. He participated in academic decathlon, competing at the state level, and he's a member of the RHS Student Council. Cardell is an International Baccalaureate Diploma candidate and has been accepted to the University of Texas at Arlington, St. John's University in New York, and Arizona State University. He plans to pursue a degree in economics. Cardell Henry. Next, Ranch View is pleased to recognize 3 students this evening as commended students in the 2011-2012 National Merit Scholarship Program. It's my honor to introduce Ms. Lauren Naylor. Lauren is the daughter of Albert and Christy Naylor. Prior to attending Ranch View, she attended McCamey Elementary and Ted Polk Middle School. Ranked 20th in her class, she is a Ranch View Honor Graduate and International Baccalaureate Diploma candidate. Lauren is a member of the National Honor Society and Student Council, captain of the Ranch View Swim and Dive team. She's received numerous awards for both academics and excellence in character, and after graduation, she plans to attend Texas A&M University to pursue a degree in wildlife and fisheries sciences. Lauren Naylor. I did see Zoe, our next recipient, so Zoe Politis, if you'll come up. Zoe is the daughter of Josephine Smith. She attended North Hills Elementary and middle schools before coming over to Ranch View. At RHS, she has earned a GPA of 3.5 while pursuing the Distinguished Achievement Diploma. She is a member of the Ranch View Band, and outside of school, she's an active member in her church youth group. Zoe plans to major in English at Hendrix College in Arkansas, where she's already been awarded $88,000 in scholarships. Congratulations, Zoe. Our next student is Sanat Valecha, and he is also in the baseball playoffs tonight, so he could not attend. Sanat is the son of Rahman and Sumekta Valecha. Prior to Ranch View, he attended the American International School in Johannesburg, South Africa, Las Colinas Elementary, and Barbara Bush Middle School. Sanat is the salutatorian for the RHS class of 2012 and is also an IB diploma candidate. He is a member of the tennis team and co-captain of the baseball team. Sanat serves as historian on the Student Council and is treasurer in the National Honor Society. He's quite busy. Upon graduation, Sanat plans to attend Cornell University and major in economics. Sanat Valecha. Our next honoree is Aaron Way. Aaron? Erin is the daughter of Wei Wei and Heijin Hong. Prior to Ranch View, she attended Tom Landry Elementary and Barbara Bush Middle School. Erin is ranked 9th in her class and is also an International Baccalaureate Diploma candidate. She is a member of the Symphonic Orchestra, tennis team, National Honor Society, and several other school clubs. She plans to attend either the University of Hong Kong and major in Chinese medicine, or the University of Texas at Austin with a major in medical laboratory science. Congratulations, Erin Way. In addition to these commended students, Ranch View is pleased to introduce 2 others who advanced in the National Merit Scholarship Program. First, our National Merit semifinalist for the 2011-12 school year, Mr. Sidman Riza. Sidman? Sidman is the son of Riza Habib and Aklima Talukder. Before coming to Ranch View, he attended North Hills Preparatory and DeWitt Perry Middle Schools. He is pursuing the International Baccalaureate Diploma at Ranch View, and he has also successfully completed multiple advanced placement courses. Sidman is a member of the National Honor Society, the Academic UIL team, and the Symphonic Orchestra. He also participated in many Model United Nations conferences. After graduation, Sidman plans to attend the University of Texas at Austin and major in finance and economics. Sidman Riza. And now it's my honor to introduce our National Merit finalist, and as of yesterday, a National Merit Scholarship winner. I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Ted Tack. Ted is the son of Hong Sik and Oksum Tak. Before coming to Ranchview, he attended West Foundation Elementary and McNeil Junior High School. Ted is also an International Baccalaureate Diploma candidate and the valedictorian of Class of 2012. He's been a member of the tennis team, that theme kind of runs through again, and orchestra. He participated in the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Program, was our Rotary Youth Leadership Awards recipient, and he's also been in student council where he was vice president. He plans to pursue a degree in applied mathematics and statistics at Johns Hopkins University. Congratulations, Ted.
Our next recognition, Mr. LaPuma's back. Okay. He's a regular speaker here tonight, and he will recognize the Creekview High School Mock Trial Team Award winners. Mr. LaPuma.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to recognize Creekview's mock trial team. But before we do that, our law and criminal justice teachers, if any of them are here, and our director, I'm going to mention their names. Our Law Academy director, Miss Amy Toy, some of our teachers that work with our mock trial students and many other students, Mr. Peter Myers, Dr. Brian Horn, and Dr. Jonathan Ray. I'm going to call the names of the students who are on the mock trial team first. And students, if you are here, please come forward. Hidalys Alvarez. Doreen Apia. Michael Caballero. Gregory Klein. Sydney Franklin. Anastasia Frolova. Angie Garcia. Farhan Haptitsian. Chloe Salomon. And last but not least, Christy Tamborelli. We're very fortunate to have not only the fantastic educators in the Law Academy at Creekview High School, but some of the recognition, some of the accomplishments, that's the word I'm looking for, that these students and the teachers participated in this year. They attended the Mock Trial Empire International World Invitational in New York City. The team placed 5th in this international competition. Sydney Franklin took first for Best Witness out of over 200 students participating from around the world. That was nice. What's even more interesting is when the students are working in the courthouse, and there's former Creekview students who are attending college in New York, came and helped and supported you guys. That was awesome. The mock trial team also took first place in the President Clinton Arkansas State Invitational. And what's even more amazing is they not only took first, they also, the remainder of the team took second. So they took first and second place. And most impressively, the Creekview mock trial team took second place in the state of Texas competition in March of this year, and Angie Garcia took runner-up as the best attorney. So congratulations for your achievements this year. Gentlemen, come forward and let's get your picture taken with this great-looking group.
For our next recognition tonight is a special event we do every year in celebration of Casey's Run. So I'll read the formal part of it. Presentation of the check from Casey's Run to Special Olympics. And then, but first, before we do that, we want to watch a special video about Casey Brekus, and then a student volunteer is going to make the presentation for us. So if you'll turn your eyes to the screen.
Our run today is named after Casey Brekus. It has become our custom as well as our honor each year to remember her influence on this event for our Special Olympians. Casey graduated from R.L. Turner High School in 2003. Casey was an honor student at R.L. Turner High School and graduated with a number of honors, including a special certification from the Academy for Media Arts and Technology. After high school, she chose to attend the prestigious Red McComb School of Business at the University of Texas. Tragically, Casey was killed in a car accident on October 3rd of her freshman year. During Casey's life, she was described as a born leader with the heart of a servant. She was an athlete, a member of the National Honor Society, the Peer Assistance Program, START, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Shattered Dreams, Miss Turner High School, and so many more school and church activities. But none of these were more important to her than her involvement with Special Olympics. Not only did Casey take an active role in putting on the event with the help of the SRO and the administration each year, she also gave her time and energy to working with our special athletes through programs at Turner High School and the Special Olympics meets. Casey became an outspoken supporter of Special Olympics. While at Turner, she recruited many of her friends and classmates to participate. Many of those who started with her back in high school are still involved today. Mel and Candy Brekus shared Casey's love for R.L. Turner and Special Olympics. It is because of that love and their desire to honor their daughter's wonderful legacy they continue to support today's event as the title sponsor. Casey's Run, as well as the Shining Star Scholarships presented to a senior at R.L. Turner High School and to a student at the University of Texas, as well as building a memory garden at Barbara Bush Middle School, demonstrate the Brekus' desire to honor their daughter and inspire other young people in the CFB and University of Texas family to continue a legacy of service and leadership so evident in their daughter's life. We, along with the Breckus family, wish to express our deep and abiding appreciation for supporting Casey's Run and for supporting our Special Olympians.
Dr. Burns, member of the school board and assistant superintendent. My name is Roy Martinez. I'm a senior at Carrollton High School, and I'm here to recognize the tremendous success of Casey's Run 2012. As one of the 12 students coordinators this year, I had a unique opportunity to raise awareness and support for my friends who are part of the All-Star Special Olympics team here in Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD. I first learned about Casey's Run through my internship program in a special education class at Turner. Building a relationship with these students and understanding their experience motivated me to do something more for them. Throughout the year, I was continuously called to action, two special reasons. One being the belief that anything is possible, which drives our all-stars in the classroom and competition. And second, the need to help other students share in this experience with them. As I mentioned before, throughout the year, myself and students like me from across this district were called to action in order to raise awareness and funds for our All-Stars. Honoring a legacy of service to others, we continue the tradition of students helping students as Casey's Kids. My basketball team at Turner showed our support by dedicating a game to our All-Star Special Olympics athletes. We wore shirts to raise awareness and passed buckets to collect donations. In one night, we raised only nearly $700. At Rosemead Elementary, the students held a penny war, raised over $800. And at each campus liaisons worked to increase participation, raise donations, and build excitement leading up to a race day. It is the effort of this Casey's Kids, campus liaisons, student coordinators, and the Casey's Runs Committee which made this year's success exceptional. On race day, it was evident the culture of acceptance, empowerment, and encouragement that radiate within our community. 1,200 runners and walkers line up at the starting lineup, supported by 200 students, volunteers, and countless friends of Casey's to show our CFB ISD All-Star Special Olympics team that we believe in them. I now invite all of those in the room who supported Casey's Run 2012. Can you please come to the front, please? Join me to present the check in this amount of $20,000 to our All-Star Special Olympics team of CFB ISD.
Congratulations again, Chris.
Hey, buddy.
And Candy would like to say a few words to us. So.
Yes, my husband, he wanted to speak, and he said no, but don't ever not ask me if I want to say something. Where are you, Irving? This young man is in the same role this year as our daughter was when she was a senior in high school, and as you can see the impact that it made on him, I want you to know that that was the same sort of impact that this situation made on her on a much smaller scale back in those days. Thanks to the people in the back, Mary Mahaffey, where are you? Yeah, instrumental, the leader of this group of young people and campus liaisons. And we are so thrilled to be part of this, and we're just honored to be here, as always.
Hey, wow. That's why you're here, not at the Maverick game. Much better. Next, we will have a recognition of the Association of School Business Officials, affectionately called ASBO. I'm not sure why they do that, but they say. ASBO. Mr. Hyatt, that's your organization. We'll let you explain why that's on here. But okay. The budget award for the 2011-2012 budget for Scott Roderick and Vicki Pippin, and Mark Hyatt will make the presentation. Mr. Hyatt.
Mr. Roderick, Ms. Pippin, if you'll come to the front. And Scott, will you take these to Dr. Burns as you go? Yeah, I was almost going to say that the Casey's run was a hard act to follow, but Dr. Burns' introduction was even harder to follow. But briefly, I'd like to read a short news release that it comes from, and the association likes to use the pronunciation ASBO. It's a little bit slightly different. But I'll read a news release from the organization, and then I'll give you a short explanation about our district. But from ASBO International, it says, the Association of School Business Officials International has awarded the Meritorious Budget Award for Excellence in the preparation and issuance of the 2011-2012 school system budget to the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District. The Meritorious Budget Awards Program is designed by ASBO International and school business management professionals to enable school business administration to achieve excellence in budgeting presentation. The program helps school systems build a solid foundation in the skills of developing, analyzing, and presenting a budget. The Meritorious Budget Award is only conferred to school systems that have met or exceeded the Meritorious Budget Award Program criteria. Ms. Tillman looked up for me this afternoon, and just as a point of information, 19 school districts in Texas received this award. That's a pretty big deal. Out of about 1,100 school districts, 19 in Texas received this award. I think that's a pretty big deal. What this is about a 250-page document that doesn't try to convince anybody that what we do is right. It doesn't try to say that we spend our money the right way. It doesn't try to say that everybody agrees with how we spend our money. What it says is, we know how to put together information to present it so everybody can make up their own minds. Everybody can make decisions about how this district utilizes its resources to the best interests of kids, and then we can make the best decisions based on that good information. I asked Ms. Pippin and Mr. Roderick to come tonight specifically because last year in a period of staff turnover and some turmoil, these two individuals stepped up to the plate and took personal responsibility and essentially completed this entire document on their own in a very difficult and very tough time frame. And I just want to say personally thank you to them and recognize their efforts in achieving this award for the district.
Okay, we have more. Next, we're going to recognize our business partner, and we're honored tonight to recognize Maxim Integrated Products and Farmers Branch for their significant contributions to our district. Board Member James Good will read their recognition, and if members from Maxim would come up while Mr. Good reads that.
Tonight, we would like to recognize Maxim Integrated Products for their involvement in our school business partnership and education program. We're fortunate to have an outstanding relationship with this business who truly cares about their community and strives to make a difference. This relationship is an example of what is possible when a public school and caring individuals work together to be partners in the education and welfare of our community's youth. Maxim is an outstanding business partner impacting our 6 middle school campuses and CFB ISD students and families. Maxim is a semiconductor company headquartered in Silicon Valley. The Farmers Branch Maxim campus employs over 800 people and is Maxim's second largest site. It is the centerpiece for the design of integrated circuits and engineering. Maxim donated over $26,000 to middle school science education in CFB ISD. The money donated will purchase probeware and science equipment for labs at our middle schools. At the grand opening of the new Maxim Lone Star building in Farmers Branch, 6 students shared their essays about the future of technology. These 6 students from Long, Bush, and Perry Middle School were selected through an essay contest. The winning students' essays were sealed in a time capsule buried outside of Maxim's new building. The students and staff in CFB ISD deeply appreciate Maxim for their devotion, donation, and support of science education. Thousands of students will be positively impacted by this outstanding relationship. Thank you, Maxim, for your commitment to education and the community. On behalf of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District Board of Trustees, and with Nancy Klein, President, and Dr. Bobby Burns, Superintendent, presenting, it is our privilege to present this plaque to Maxim Integrated Products, a business that truly exemplifies a meaningful relationship between our business community and our schools. Accepting the plaque is Hal Kurkowski and John Van Sant and
Jennifer McMahon.
Jennifer McMahon. Thank you very much.
Come on up, students and principals.
Way to go, Kobe.
For our next recognition tonight, we will recognize Rebecca Mabry, Memorial Computer Lab. The administration, along with the Rosemead Elementary staff, Campus Improvement Council, and PTA recommend naming the computer lab at Rosemead in memory of Rebecca Becky Mabra. Becky Mabra served CFB ISD as a teacher and instructional technology specialist for 27 years. She had a lasting impact on many campuses, students, and staff across the district. Becky served Rosemead Elementary for 10 years, impacting technology education for students and staff. Nancy Watton, board member, will read a resolution naming the computer lab in memory of longtime CFB employee Becky Mabra.
Now it be resolved by the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District Board of Trustees that we make a commitment to honor individuals in our community who model the values upon which this school district is based. Tonight, we recognize such an individual. An educator for 27 years in the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District, Rebecca Mabra has influenced the lives of many students and educators. Rebecca Becky Mabra came to the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District in 1985, first as a substitute teacher before being hired full-time at Janie Stark Elementary. Ooh. In 1998, Becky followed her passion for technology and teacher development by transitioning to an instructional technology specialist. Becky served in this capacity for 14 years. More importantly, she contributed to the education and appreciation of technology for hundreds of students and teachers, but above all, she encouraged them to stretch their abilities and take risks in learning. Becky Mabra impacted technology learning in CFB ISD through her tireless dedication to our students and staff at many elementary campuses. She lovingly served the Rosemead Elementary community for 10 years. In her memory, the Rosemead Elementary staff and PTA view the naming of the school's computer lab as a testimony to Becky Mabra's commitment to education, technology learning, and the Rosemead students and staff. On behalf of the current and former students and staff of Rosemead Elementary School, the Board of Trustees honors Becky Mabra for her role in creating a quality technology program and shaping the lives of hundreds of students and staff. Now therefore be it resolved that the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District Board of Trustees names the computer lab at Rosemead Elementary School in memory of Rebecca Becky Mabra.
We'd like to move agenda item 3C up to this item, and I'd like to see if any of my board members have anything.
Ms. Klein?
Ms. Chapin?
If I may, I'd like to recommend board adoption of the resolution naming the Rebecca Mabry Memorial Computer Lab at Rosemead Elementary.
Mr. Shore? Second that motion. All those in favor? All those opposed? That is unanimous. Congratulations.
That concludes our recognition tonight, but we have a few announcements we'd like to share with you. The announcements come to you from the students at R.L. Turner's Academy of Media, Arts, and Technology. So if you'll turn to the screen.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District's board announcements for the month of May. We have tons of stuff to talk about, so we're just going to jump right into tonight's news. And let me warn you, this first one's a doozy.
Come one, come all to the event on May 4th from 3 to 7 p.m. at the historic downtown Carrollton Square. CFB-ISD will celebrate public education by honoring our staff and volunteers for their hard work and dedication. The event will have a bounce house, carnival games for kids, free food, Bluebell ice cream, a petting zoo, great entertainment, and much, much more. Come join us for this great event honoring our wonderful staff and volunteers. Be there in the square.
That's a yes vote for me attending that great event. Sounds like some very, very cool stuff going on for sure. And speaking of voting, Election Day for local election is Saturday, May 12th. That's a little more than a week away. Of course, you can early vote for your favorite candidates through Tuesday, May 8th. Not quite sure where you're supposed to vote? You can find a list of voting locations by visiting the election information page on the district's website at www.cfbisd.edu/election.
Another event that is right around the corner, which I'm super excited about, is the end of the 2011-2012 school year for CFB-ISD. The last day of school for students is May 31st, and the teachers get out one day later on Friday, June 1st. Early release days are set for May 30th and May 31st. The early release schedule is as follows. High school's release at 11:30 a.m., middle school's release at 12:10 p.m., elementary schools will be at 1 p.m., and the B. Salazar campus will release at 10:35 a.m. Mary Grimes and Early College High School will not release students early on these days. And right before we put an end to to the 2011-2012 school year, the students and staff will have one more day of relaxation before the last push into finals week. Monday, May 28th is a district holiday honoring Memorial Day. All schools and district offices will be closed.
Wow, another successful year comes to a close. Congratulations to all of our high school seniors who will be exploring a new chapter in their lives as they graduate from all of our outstanding high schools around the district. Early College High School is the first to hold their graduation ceremony this year. It is on Friday, June 1st at 7 p.m. at the Performance Hall on the Brookhaven College campus. All of the rest of the high schools will graduate on Saturday, June 2nd at the University of North Texas Coliseum. The schedules for our 4 high schools is as follows. Branchview will start off the day at 9 a.m., followed by Newman Smith at 1 p.m. Later in the afternoon, the seniors from R.L. Turner will graduate at 4 p.m., and finishing off the day will be Creekview High School at 7 p.m.
As we celebrate students leaving CFB to pursue great things, our district is opening its doors to families in our surrounding communities. We know that families have options when making decisions about education for their children, and now some families living outside the boundaries of the district have an option to choose the Carrollton-Farmers Branch School District. Because of limited open enrollment, for more information about limited open enrollment and to see if your family is eligible, please visit www.cfbisd.edu/open.
That is it for tonight's news. It has been a real pleasure presenting the announcements tonight. Don't forget, next month's school board meeting will be on Thursday, June 7th at 7 p.m., and the board's next work-study session will be on Thursday, June 21st at 6:30 p.m. Both meetings are in the Administration Building at 1445 North Perry Road in Carrollton. From everyone here in AMAT, good night.
Ms. Klein, members of the board, that concludes recognitions and announcements, but I would take a moment here to recognize the Amen Academy and the students there for doing our announcements all year long. So you would join me in giving them a
Thank you, Dr. Burns. I know our district is here to help promote and celebrate high achievement for our students, and nights like tonight are really what it's all about. And we appreciate the National Merit students and their parents for helping us celebrate with you, and for letting us celebrate with you, mock trial. And then teachers from our campuses, y'all are pretty special. And then Mr. Hyatt, I don't know how to pronounce your organization, but Mr. Roderick and Ms. Pippin, thank you for the work that you did and the time we had last year. Thank you to Rosemead Elementary for bringing us the opportunity to name your technology center. And Maxim, thank you for all your work you're doing with our students in our middle schools and impacting their lives. And Casey's Room, thank you. So, okay, the last thing, May 17th, we're having another meeting at R.L. Turner to celebrate a lot of more successes, and we hope you can join us.
Yeah. Athletics and Fine Arts, May 17th. Put it on your calendar.
Thank you. At this time, it is 8 o'clock. We're going to take a short 10-minute recess, and we'll be back with Agenda Item 2, Report by Superintendent. Thank you.
We're going to move the principals up. And it's just so sad. So those teachers can all leave.
Yes, I'm coming around.
Ms. Goldberg. It is now only 8:10. Mr. Hyatt put me to work signing documents, so I was distracted. I would also mention that Mr. Shore came in first in Casey's run for the board members race. I would like to challenge the other board members to one-up him next year. I'm going to try. Okay, so at this time, we'll resume the board meeting with item number 2, report by superintendent. 2A is presentation on student achievement, instructional rounds. Dr. Burns.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Members of the board, as you know, every meeting we do a piece on student achievement. And the recognitions you heard tonight for those merit scholars and all of the accolades academically comes from our instructional work. It comes from our instructional practice that makes that happen with our teachers working with our students. So we're glad we have a big crowd here tonight to hear about instructional rounds, because we're very excited about what it can do for instruction for us in the district. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mayer for student achievement presentation on instructional rounds.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. In the spring of 2010, a team from CFB went to Harvard University to learn about instructional rounds. Instructional rounds is a process where you go into classrooms and observe instruction. That's nothing new for CFB. But the process for rounds is very structured, and we're finding it quite different from the usual classroom observation. Spring 2012, this week, we were back at Harvard. Got in late last night. It was a very good week. And so what I'd like to share with you is a little bit about our journey and where we are and about this important high leverage strategy. We have 5 networks. This is our second year. We have 5 networks. We have 23 of our 40 schools involved in those networks. We have 3 elementary, 1 middle, and 1 high network. Each network has approximately 30 members of that network, and the membership is comprised of campus administrators, campus teachers, central office support staff, our coordinators, our instructional specialists, our literacy and math coaches, and various other personnel to be a member of the network. And then each of our campuses that is involved with instructional rounds network visits have 1 network visit per year. Of course, instructional rounds supports our goal of high achievement for all students. It really touches a little bit on all 4 of our objectives, but most directly linked to Objective 1, continuously increase student achievement, and I believe consequently also Objective 4 of continuously increasing stakeholder confidence and support of our school system, because it's all about improving instruction. I have 2 short videos in the presentation tonight, one from a teacher in rounds and one from a principal. And so we're going to start the presentation by hearing from a teacher from McCamey Elementary.
Instructional rounds has impacted the teaching here at our school in many different ways. One of the most important ways is that it allows us to go and visit other classrooms. As a teaching profession, we seem to be secluded into our classrooms a lot, and this allows us to go and visit others and learn from them. We then begin to meet and work together as a team. And when we collaborate with one another, we can learn the different types of ways to teach something that would help other students. And one of the things that we've learned through all the problems of practice is our types of questioning, and that's really impacted me as a teacher. It's made me stop and think, what kinds of questions am I asking my students? Am I asking them enough open-ended questions so that I'm getting that higher level thinking skills? And are we teaching our children how to talk to one another, how to open that student discourse, how to agree and disagree? And I believe these new strategies that we're learning and talking about in our problems of practice are making those things stronger in our classroom.
Instructional rounds really began with a Harvard professor named Dr. Richard Elmore. He's one of our greatest thinkers right now in our field. He started this work with superintendents actually in Connecticut, actually going in and observing the work. But Dr. Elmore talks about 3 ways to improve performance in schools, and only 3 ways. Increase the knowledge and skills of teachers, change the content and actually make it more rigorous, meaningful, and alter the relationship of the student and the teacher to the teacher and the content. It's the only 3 ways that you really improve instruction. And instructional rounds is an improvement strategy. It is an improvement process. And what we know about student achievement is the way that occurs is through effective instruction. There's a theory of action behind instructional rounds. And it says if teachers increase their effectiveness, then student achievement will increase. And we believe Rounds is a high-leverage strategy to help us in that endeavor, along with other strategies in the district. There are 4 goals with Rounds, and our network participants, if they were here, I'd give them a quiz, and I know they all would pass. I could almost ask to the audience, what's the first goal of Rounds? Increase student achievement, yes. Certainly, we know that that's what this work's about, is to increase student achievement. It's to deepen our understanding of the instructional core, and we'll talk a little bit more about the instructional core here in the next couple slides. To have clarity around the district's language of instruction and its impact on improving student achievement at scale. What we know is we use a lot of terminology in our field of education, and we don't all have crystal clear understanding of what some of that language means. And the way that we improve instruction, the real tough sledding of improving student achievement, is about talking about instruction in such a way that we identify and use language with such specificity that we can know what we're saying and everyone understand what we're saying when we talk about good teaching and learning. And a 4th goal is to foster a culture where classroom instruction drives dialogue and serves as a catalyst for improvement. Everything that we do, that we create in this district, as far as support from central office, as far as principal and campus leadership, it's all to support what goes on in the classroom. Because it is what goes on in the classroom is what gets the results. We understand that the teacher matters in this district, and everything we do needs to be about helping the teacher be the best he or she can be. And Rounds, it's definitely one of the goals of Rounds. This is a visual that I wanted to share because it kind of helps imprint what we mean when we talk about the instructional core. The instructional core is made up of the content, the teacher, the student, with the task nestled in the center. That's it. Those are the 3 pieces that we have to work with if we want to improve performance in schools. You can see there are several principles along the side, and those are principles of this work that we certainly study when we are first introduced to the work through staff development, but we continue to deepen our understanding of those principles throughout the process. There are 4 components of Rounds, and if you don't have all 4 components, you don't have instructional Rounds. You can't take one piece out and then say, that's Rounds. It's an all-or-nothing process. And it all begins with a problem of practice. And when we first received some training, we were in a breakout group, and someone said, well, I don't know about this word problem. I mean, really, that sounds so negative. Do we have to use the word problem? And of course, we were in a breakout group with a gal who said, oh, don't let Richard hear you say that. You know, when you're at Harvard, no one calls you doctor, because everyone's a doctor that's walking on the street, right? So they don't do that. So they only use first names. And she said, don't let Richard hear you say that, because he will just kind of go crazy. He will start quoting all kinds of research from international data and national data and say, really? Really? We don't think we have any problems we want to improve in schools? So that language has stuck. We do identify a problem of practice. And let's examine what that means, because that's where it all begins. A problem of practice focuses on the instructional core. We now know what the instructional core is, right? It's the teacher, it's the student, it's the content. It's directly observable. It's something when we go into a classroom, we can see. It's actionable. It connects to a broader strategy and improvement. That was something that was emphasized to us in our first round of training, was you don't want whatever it is you're identifying that you're working on your problem of practice, to be an add-on or something outside of what the district is trying to work on instructionally. It needs to be a vehicle to work on whatever we've identified as the important instructional work. And it's high leverage. By that we mean if we really address this problem and improve our practice around this problem, then we'll pay big dividends. It means that student achievement will increase, and it's exactly what we want to happen. So let's look at an example. Out of the 23 schools, we have a problem of practice that are certainly generated from each campus. It is a campus decision. We could do a district problem of practice. We elected not to do that. We wanted the autonomy around what campuses identified that they wanted to work on to be a campus-based decision. And problems of practice have several components as well. They have identifying the actual problem of practice. There's a theory of action behind that problem of practice. And then there are essential questions that evolve or emerge from the problem of practice. So here is Thompson's problem of practice. We believe that students need to have more opportunities to interact meaningfully, deeply, and critically with content, whether that takes place person to person, through personal pondering, reflection, or on paper. Students are not being given adequate opportunity to think critically about and convey understanding of content. Many of our problems of practice deal with student discourse or student talk, because that's something that we're working on in our instructional work, for the teacher to be a facilitator and students to be active learners. And so you'll see common threads, but each of the problem of practice are articulated individually. Clearly, it's stated in language that indicates we can improve, and the faculty owns that we can improve here. Theory of action. If students are provided opportunities to interact critically with content and a variety of inquiry-based opportunities in which students reflect on learning, demonstrate curiosity, and pose questions of the content, their peers, and themselves, then understanding will endure and achievement will increase. Theories of action are always stated in if-then statements. If this happens, then we believe this will occur. Essential questions. The essential questions try to give some guidance and specificity to the teams of network participants that are going to go out in the classroom and gather descriptive evidence on what's actually happening in the classroom. So, Thompson had 3 questions they wanted us to gather evidence about. What response formats are students being provided to interact critically with content? How are talk moves impacting student interaction with content? Talk moves are moves that we've been working on really through mathematics at elementary that's been transferred to other subjects of where we see students interacting with each other and with the teacher. And then how is the teacher facilitating student content or engagement with the content? So teacher teams will go out and collect evidence around these questions, as well as any other evidence that might be related to the questions. Then, after the problem of practice is established, and this is usually done with the principal and rounds leadership team, then we move into the actual observation of the practice. And there's some specificity around that. Our rounds day is an 8 to 4 day. We arrive at 8 o'clock. We have an hour to an hour and 15 minutes of what we call learning time, where we are talking about this work as we move it forward, whether that's looking at how we're capturing evidence, but just kind of some study time around the instructional rounds process. It's also a time when the principal gives context to their journey, their problem of practice, what they're doing to work on that problem of practice on days other than the network day. And so we have that. And then we go out into classrooms. There are 6 teams. They're made up of 4 to 5 folks that go out into classrooms. We observe 12 teachers. 3 of those teams will observe, 2 teams, teams 1 and 2 will observe the same 4 teachers, teams 3 and 4 the same, 5 and 6 the same, because we observe them in different points in the instruction. So we'll be out, for a couple of hours in classrooms. We come back and we have an observation team debrief that lasts about 3 hours, and then we have a whole group network debrief that lasts another couple of hours. So it's a long day, but we believe that it takes that amount of time to do justice to the process. In the observation team debrief, we are looking at the evidence that was collected when we were out in the classrooms. A very important piece of the work with rounds is the fact that this is not about evaluation. This is not about evaluation. This is about improvement and how do we get better at our craft of teaching. It's about examining what does good teaching look like. And so we nudge ourselves. We have the evidence police because we do not use evaluative language. And that means evaluative in any sense. We don't say, that was a good lesson. That's not what we're saying. We're not about judgment. We're about what specifically happened. So we are taught to take notes in a very objective manner, only writing exactly what we see. And while we're capturing that in the classroom, not putting any judgment on it, not doing any analysis of it, just writing it down. 3 out of 6 students spoke in a 4-minute period. I mean, we get real specific and real fine-grained. And we call that descriptive evidence, using non-judgmental language. And then the participants come back and they work on looking at what's most important of the descriptive evidence, and they start analyzing what are the patterns across the campus. This is not only about working with the campus and helping the campus improve, it's also about our own learning about good teaching and instruction across the district. And we also make predictions. Well, if a student were sitting in that class, what would he or she be able to know or do at the end of that class? During this process, we also create what we call artifacts, which are some of our analysis, and here's an example of one. For example, it says, students spoke, observed 114 students in 4 classes, 59 different students spoke. So that's just an interesting piece of descriptive evidence that we noodle around with and ask ourselves, is that important? Is that a percentage we think should be speaking? Should it be more? Should it be less? You can see we look often at questioning, and are we using effective questioning? Are we calling on volunteers and non-volunteers? Who's driving, who's speaking in the classroom? Is it the teacher? Is it the student? So we collect evidence around that. Something we've talked a lot about, we thought would be an easy place to begin to really hone our practice, was around wait time. The research on wait time has been out, 25 years or more. We thought that it wasn't rocket science. We may be rethinking that. It may be rocket science. Because as it turns out, when you get real fine grain with this work, more questions emerge than answers, right? Or more issues that you hadn't really thought about. Okay, this is easy. We'll go collect wait time. What's wait time? Well, I ask you a question, and then I wait at least 3 seconds. The research says a minimum of 3 seconds, more was better, to give students an opportunity to think, right? Well, then we realize, there's that wait time, but then you call on a student's name and you might have to give some more wait time, and then after the student responds, there's another wait time. So we've gotten very good at looking at instructional issues in a fine-grained way with enough specificity that we can have a really meaningful conversation around it. You will see here at this particular campus, they felt like they had a 2.15 wait time, which might be something that they might want to improve. We've also done a lot of work in our instructional rounds work around cognition, the level of thinking, the rigor, and so we are what is called, we follow, when we talk about cognition in CFB, Bloom's 2. And so you can see we have remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And you can see in this campus, they felt there was kind of 70% of the questions. We also sometimes look at the task around Bloom's and cognition, and 30% were higher level. So these little stickies on the side, that's the descriptive evidence, because one of the things that we stress in rounds is we're not going to make any kind of analysis statements or analysis on our artifact without some descriptive evidence to back that up. We want anyone to be able to look at that artifact and kind of see how we arrived at that analysis. They may agree or disagree with some of that analysis, but at least we'll understand the thinking behind the analysis. Next level of work. Next level of work is when we generate lots of suggestions for the campus on how do you take this work to the next level. It's anchored in, like I said, the district instructional initiatives. It's thoughtful, high quality, and it's the gift we leave the school. Now then, one of the things as this work has evolved that we've done is included something called a rounds momentum plan. And I will tell you, this week at Harvard, this is what generated the most interest and enthusiasm in our work. We worked with teams from New York and Chicago and Australia, and this was the issue that kept coming up again and again, because part of what our work was this week was to identify where are you getting stuck, what problems are you having. Others are struggling a lot with this work moving forward any day after the network visit. And for us, it really isn't. I looked at all the good work our principals are doing to move this work forward and sort of captured that in late fall in an example of what we're calling a rounds momentum plan to keep the momentum of this work going. So I want to share with you some dimensions of that. There's an observation component, obviously, because we're going into classrooms. I did a mock momentum plan as if I were the principal of Happy Valley High, a chair that I, sat in for a while, so I felt like I could craft one around a high school. So here you see the observation is around the network visit, and then we have something called internal rounds. Internal rounds are rounds that campuses do, not with the network, but maybe just with a small team on their campus. They're going into the classroom, looking at the problem of practice, looking at the essential questions throughout the year in addition to the network visit. Learning partner work is when they pair a teacher with another teacher and they observe each other and give feedback, again, on the specific problem of practice. Part of the power of this work is that you focus on one thing, instead of trying to say, we want to improve everything about our instructional practice. No, we want to improve one thing. Another dimension is the data dimension. We quickly saw that it was important to get some short-term wins around this work, and so we crafted the phrase of short-term targets. And here are just a couple of examples. If we wanted to increase the student talk from approximately 25% of the class time to 75% of the class time, that would be considered a short-term target. Something quantifiable, something that we can measure, something that we can go out in internal rounds and collect month after month and post and see our progress. Instructional work is sort of like Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel. When is it going to be done? And the answer is it's never done. Or the book, the Golden Gate Bridge, they start painting on one end and they go to the end, and when they finish, they go back and start painting on the first. Well, instructional work is a continuous improvement process, but we have to put markers in the process that help people realize that we are achieving and moving toward our target. Short-term targets serve that purpose. Other data that we look at would be our STAR data. The problem of practice is trying to address some piece of instruction and student achievement that we're wanting to improve. I selected for this particular rounds momentum plan critical thinking. It's something we're always trying to improve. It's something that we feel like needs to be better in our district. There's a study piece to this work. You can't just have a problem of practice and say, we're going to go in and observe it, we're going to talk about it, and voila, we're going to all be better at that. It goes back to what Elmore said about one of the 3 ways you improve performance in schools. We have to improve the knowledge and skills of the teachers. And to do that, we need to study, we need to read. If our problem of practice is about talk moves, then we need to read books about student talk and discourse so that we get a deeper understanding around what all that will require. You can do that through book studies, you can do that through various articles. There's an inquiry piece to rounds that's very important. It's like the teacher as a researcher. There's the I wonders. Well, I wonder if we get really good wait time, we ask higher level questions, and the cognitive level of the questions are good, what will happen? Well, let's try that out. Let's come back and see. How does that feel? And so there's definitely an inquiry piece. Professional development, obviously, is really important to this work. Professional development, going and visiting other schools that are doing it really well, or continual work around your short-term targets, and then explicit staff development. We've used some videotaping in a very effective way. Some just used audio taping, actually, with the snowflake mic, and had teachers do a reflection on what they heard. Again, structured questions around the problem of practice for teachers to reflect on their practice and see what they're doing. And usually this is very low stakes. Teachers have embraced this because this isn't about any individual evaluation of any teacher at all. This is about all of us learning together about good teaching and learning. Surveys are another important part of the work. Whoops. Well, that's all right. Teacher surveys, student surveys, surveys around your own practice that we put in. We have a couple schools that have given a survey around questioning, have teachers first reflect on their questioning practices, and then they can work on those throughout the year. We did, speaking of surveys, an end-of-the-year survey recently, and I have just literally, you know, like hundreds of comments on this survey with very positive results. I have selected 3 comments that I'd like to share. Ms. Tracy Smith is going to read the first comment from a teacher.
Not only have I enjoyed the rounds work, but I have learned so much from my experience. The opportunity to dialogue about the practice of instructional work, as well as observe and learn from so many different teachers in a variety of content areas in schools, has been invaluable.
Ms. Bailey?
I feel like I learn something every time I go on a rounds visit. The dialogue that goes on really makes me think about my own instructional practices and ways I need to improve. I've also seen things on other campuses and other classrooms that I would like to try in my classroom.
And every rounds visit gave me more clarity and knowledge about the core to bring back to my classroom and campus. It's a very powerful statement for a teacher to make because that's the exact intention of what we're trying to accomplish here. The survey asks questions about, has rounds been valuable? And we've had like 98% of the respondents put yes or a great deal. So we've had very positive feedback. The next video I'm going to share with you is from middle school principal, Ms. Brooke Berselli.
Instructional rounds has had a profound impact on the instructional practices on our campus. It has really focused our attention on not only the big picture of what is happening across classrooms, it has also helped to focus our attention on the fine-grained details, the small moves that teachers make that have an impact on instruction, and it has really given us a language for discussing what we see in classrooms. It is a safe process for teachers because it looks at trends across the campus and not just focusing on one individual teacher in a classroom. So teachers really feel comfortable and safe to discuss their practice as part of the larger group. It has also helped us to really tighten up our conversation about instruction. It's forced us to think about what we define as quality instruction. For instance, at Perry, our problem of practice is focused around student discourse and active student learning. And so on our campus, it forced us to have a conversation with the entire staff about what does it mean to be an active learner at Perry, and that we got really specific about what is that, and do we all have a common understanding and a common language to use when we're talking about instruction at Perry. In terms of professional development, it has helped us to look at choosing article studies, book studies, looking at strategies that we use in CFB as part of our best practices, and choose opportunities for professional growth for teachers that address our problem of practice. So in a time of limited resources, we are able to look at how we use our resources to address our problem of practice, and it really helps us to make the best decisions for our campus and for student achievement on our campus.
Another Elmore-ism I'm going to share with you here in a second. The most important job that we can do is to build and sustain an instructional culture. Instructional rounds really does that. Another thing that Dr. Elmore has shared with us is that, schools either get high student achievement through social capital or good instruction. And he says, when I take you to the Boston Public Schools, which we did yesterday morning, the only way they're getting it, good student achievement, is through high-quality instruction. And I'm going to maintain for you the only way we are going to reach our goal of number 1 in API is through good quality instruction. So I believe instructional rounds is a high-leverage strategy to help us in that endeavor. In our field, we have a tendency in school reform to go for the quick fixes of structural work. We want to change the bell schedule. We want to double block. We want to, do a lot of different things. And all of those are important and part of it. But the real tough sledding of high student achievement is getting deep into the instructional work and improving teachers' craft and practices. And that's not easy work, it's messy work, but it's definitely worth our time. That's my presentation.
Yes, Ms. Watton?
Who makes up the group that goes around and does the instructional rounds?
Who, I'm sorry?
What group of people are make the instructional rounds? I mean,
Okay.
How do you select those people?
Okay, we selected campuses and talked to the campuses about belonging. There are 23 of them. It's all the secondary schools and 13 of the elementary schools. Then the principals select the teachers that are going to serve in the network, and then all the coordinators serve, our directors, and our instructional specialists, and our literacy and math coaches.
So it's the teachers within the building?
Yes.
Okay.
Teachers within the building, but if you're on a network, you go to every network visit, and that was feedback we got from year 1. In year 1, the teachers that served on the networks just were on the network site visit that one day at their own school, and every one of them said, we want to go on all the network visits. We've done that this year, and it's been very powerful. The teachers have enjoyed it. They feel like they've learned a lot. It helps them to go back and talk to other teachers about what they really see. In fact, one of the comments on our survey is we need to get more teachers trained and more teachers experiencing the network, and so we're trying to figure out how to do that for next year.
Mr. Shore?
Dr. Mayor, when was year 1?
Last year. We're in our second year.
Second year. And we're not doing this at all campuses right now.
We're not doing it at all campuses right now.
But we can get the ERG data per campus
Yes.
for for each campus, correct? Those that are doing it and those that are not.
Correct.
Thank you.
And how does the data compare between those that are doing it and those that are not?
Well, I think,
I didn't want to ask that question.
Oh, come on, Frank.
well, I would say that we are too new in this process to draw direct links to student achievement data that was captured a year ago, for where we are right now. I think longitudinally, that's something we probably need to look at. And we have a goal of getting all campuses involved in the network. That's a goal.
Unless the ERG data shows something different.
Mr. Short, move your microphone.
We doubt that the ERG data is going to show that the performance of the campuses that aren't using the instructional rounds would show better performance than the campuses that are.
I think that's a logical conclusion you could draw, but I want to say this about this work. This is not only about external testing. This is about improving teachers' craft, and that's one measure that we'll look at.
Okay, and I agree. As I was listening to your presentation, the analogy that I made in my mind was somebody honing their golf swing, somebody improving whatever they do. But if I'm wrong, if the ERG data were to show that the campuses that are using this in fact perform at a lower level than the campuses that aren't, it would make me think that we need to look at what's working here, because that seems inconsistent with what we would expect.
I think it would be one measure that we'd want to look at.
Okay. It's so hard to get a concession out of you.
Mr. Shore, if I could add to that, of course, as a district, we look at all our student data. That's what we're interested in, how we do as a district with API data. At the campus level, we try to go in and find campuses that maybe need extra support and help to get them up. Because if we rise, if their API rises, everybody rises. So we know that. But we don't necessarily like to look at it in isolated form of just that for just one campus. We need to look at a lot of different, variables, a lot of different factors in that. But you said it very well, Mr. Short, and you and I obviously often use sports analogies. It's about playing better. I mean, it's about getting better at what we do, which is teaching. And that is the core business. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's the students you saw here tonight, and with the previous success of our academic performance in ERG, I think that's what it says. We are doing that, but we still have to do better. I mean, we still have to continue to get better at it, and that's what Dr. Mayer and her team has been working on, and the way we've put some systems in place to do that. Again, as a superintendent, I couldn't be prouder of the work that our team is doing, and our teachers do a fabulous job, and they want to do better. That's the most important thing.
And one other thing I'd like to add is that I like what the teachers said about the fact that when you're teaching, you're confined to your classroom, and you don't have the opportunity to see what other teachers are doing. And I know that teachers love to steal ideas from one another, and that's what makes you a better teacher. So this is what I really appreciate about this instructional rounds, is that it gets the teacher out of her classroom and the opportunity to go visit and see what other strategies are being used.
Absolutely. And I might also add, as we, again, conferred with other teams around the country and struggles they were having, not all of them have the kind of support that we have from the top. Our superintendent comes to rounds. He listens to the dialogue. He's part of this work, and that impressed a lot of people that we met this week.
I'd like to thank you for your presentation. When it was a homecoming parade for a high school in our district, one of the elementary schools couldn't attend because they were having instructional rounds, and I asked Dr. Burns, can't they move it? And he said, no, they cannot move it. I thought, well, why can't they move it? And he said, it's been planned for 6 months or so, and this date is set, and you may need to have somebody move their homecoming parade. So it was an interesting, academics does come first, and I didn't understand quite the magnitude of the involvement and scheduling and commitment of the instructional rounds, but I got it then, but I appreciate the presentation helping me understand further. Any other questions, Board?
Well, and if I can make one more comment, because Dr. Mayer wouldn't take the credit, but when the team was back at Harvard for kind of the advanced, they were the advanced group. Our group is the advanced group in leading this work and moving it forward. And it's because of her leadership and because of the commitment of our staff. And we have a saying in our workroom that ideas are only ideas. It's when you implement them with fidelity and you get results that they become a reality. And that's what we're going to do with this idea. It's not just an idea. It's a practice that its time has come for us to continue to get better at it. So that's where we are. Rounds is not going away. I mean, that's our work. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Burns, item 2B, report on 2012-13 preliminary budget.
thank you, Ms. Klein, members of the board. Now we got to figure out how we're going to pay for
I was
it.
going to say something real fast. We do have rooms seats at the front of the room for any of y'all that are back in the back standing or on the floor. There is room on the front row,
I
second row.
offered that to them earlier, and we didn't get any takers.
No, didn't get any takers.
Yeah, I told them there was a $100 bill under one of the seats, but nobody came up.
Okay.
Again, Ms. Klein, members of the boards, as you have in our work study, we've looked at our resources and how we manage those resources to maximize our performance. Because, we know what we need to do in terms of instructional practice and work, but we have to manage those resources effectively to get the most out of it. And again, as you heard tonight with the award from the business people that they received, our business department does a great job at letting us know where our resources are, how much we have, when we're going to run out, et cetera. And so with that combination of knowing what the practice is and what we need to do to improve, and then knowing what the finances are to make that happen, help us be successful. So we've got another budget year ahead, and we're working at it hard, and tonight we'll bring it to you and see if we can live with this number and move on. So, Mr. Hyatt?
Thank you, Dr. Burns, members of the board. Tonight, we're going to try to bring you some context to a lot of budget conversations we've had. You'll recall we had a pretty involved work session a few weeks ago, and we came to some conclusions about what our targets were in this budget session. The good news, I guess it's the good news and the bad news, is the legislature isn't meeting, nothing's changing, so we know what the bad news is. It's not going to get any better, so we just need to come to closure, and that's what we're going to attempt to help you do tonight. I've asked Ms. Tillman to take a little bit of a step back and give you some context to what's happening in the state, and then bring that into closure with what we've talked about here and what we've proposed here. And we're really down to just the last couple of items, and those, we've talked about that before, the last few things, one minor decision to consider based dealing with student athletic insurance, and then a major issue dealing with compensation and what you want to do with that. So we're going to bring you to that point. This is we're nearing the last opportunity we'll have, because since we don't meet in July and we'll adopt a budget in August, there's one more meeting to have the thought and conversation about this, so we don't want that to sneak up on us. So, as the summer months get here, things go faster, and when we come back in August, we'll be ready to make some final budget decisions. So with that, Ms. Tillman, if you will, just lead them through the background information that we've prepared for tonight.
Thank you. As we move towards finalizing the 12-13 budget, we do continue to monitor what's happening at the state level and what impact it will have on our future funding structure. There are currently 5 groups that have filed suit to date, and a trial date has been set that's going to start October 22nd. The current expectation is that nothing will be finalized during the 2013 session, so any major change or overhaul of our system will occur in a special session after the regular session, which basically means we'll be under some form of our current system, at least for the 2013-14 school year. What that current system looks like actually came from the last litigation that occurred in the state, whereby the $1.50 was deemed to be a statewide property tax, and we had House Bill 1 that required districts to compress their tax rate over a 2-year period. If you were at $1.50, you compressed down to $1, and this became known as the target revenue system. This system now incorporates the majority of our general fund revenue. It takes your state funds, your Tier 1 state funds, along with your taxes up to your compressed rate, and that is your target. It started in House Bill 1 with a greater of calculation, so you were held to either your 05-06 taxes and state revenue, or your 06-07 revenue. If you had property growth, they accounted for that, and you were able to take that amount as your greater of number, or they calculated a third option using an effective maintenance and operation tax rate. So the highest of those three numbers became your target, and that's what you stayed at. In 2009-10, House Bill 3646 added on to the target revenue system, but there were also mandates that came along with those additional funds. Now, in our third generation of the target revenue system, it's relatively intact as it was originally set up. However, now the funds have been reduced back down, and we'll go over how those funds were reduced in another slide. The Chapter 41 recapture provisions are still intact under this system, but there's 3 levels of recapture, with the lowest level being what triggers you as a Chapter 41 district. But your tax rate actually determines whether or not you have recapture. So at $1, if your wealth is above $476.5, then you have recapture up to your $1. The next 6 pennies, there is no recapture on that if the state funds at the Austin yield level. And then the third equalized wealth level is on the next 11 pennies, and it's at $319.5. We are currently above the $319.5, so we're Chapter 41, but our tax rate doesn't take us to the level that would require recapture at this point. And a third piece of our funding that is also impacting us is the one-time EduJob funds that we'll also lose next year. So that, along with the reduction in the target revenue system, gets us where we're at in terms of our 12-13 projections. Under Senate Bill 1, the state chose a 2-step process to reduce our funding. So in the first year, they actually reduced our Tier 1 funding by applying a factor to our program allotment. This, in effect, lowered our WADA without having any change in your student number. So that lowered your target, even though they didn't change your actual target revenue number. The WADA went down, so you had less revenue. Next year, they're still going to lower your Tier 1 revenues, but they're also going to reduce your per WADA amount or your target revenue amount. So these 2 steps are what will reduce our funding over the 2-year period. When we look at how this will roll out for us in the future, the intent of Senate Bill 1 was actually to eliminate the target revenue system by September 1, 2017. Districts are termed to either be hold harmless or a target district, formula district. If you're on formula, that means you're no longer receiving state aid for tax reduction. So what will happen right now is we still receive $7.5 million. They didn't put into the law how they plan on getting to this point, so at this point we don't know how much more funding we may lose under this system. That's what's going to happen in the 2013 session, is they're going to determine how this will play out going on into the next year. Student growth still makes up a major part of our revenue estimates. It has been relatively flat over the past 5 years. We did experience a 1% growth over this last year, which was approximately 264 students. Our tax base has also remained stable. It doesn't have the impact that it had before the target revenue system, because when we have ups and downs, the state funding is offset up to our compressed rate. However, as they phase out and we get less target revenue, it's going to become a bigger factor again in our estimating processes. So if you'll recall, at our original budget presentation in February, we were projecting a $12 million deficit. As we've moved forward in the process and updated our projections, we are now getting close to a $9 million deficit, which is getting close to the target that was established at the board workshop. If you look at it in a little more detail, you can see what we're estimating our state sources, going from 63 million to 57. We're projecting our tax revenues to remain basically the same with just a slight increase. You can also see the education job funds in 11-12, and we are losing those in 12-13. By category, you can see our local revenue, which is largely our tax revenues, now supports 71.25% of our general fund operations. Our expenditures by category, if you look at our payroll, our TIF payment, utilities, and transportation, this makes up a little over 90% of our general fund operating budget.
I wanted to add here, when Tanya got to this point, we wanted to put this slide in too to reinforce why we spend so much time talking about staffing and compensation and payroll. While miscellaneous expenditures are not unimportant, I mean, we obviously want to monitor and be efficient with all our resources. All of the things that are somewhat subjective outside of the payroll and those major categories makes up less than 10% of our total budget. So to make any significant impact on our actual total budget, we would have to make dramatic changes in those categories. The only way to really make significant changes are to adjust compensation. I mean, that's just the way it goes. We either have fewer people or pay them less if we want to reduce our budget significantly.
With a $9 million loss, we would be at $61.5 million ending out the next fiscal year, which would put us at 115 days operation in fund balance.
That $9 million loss, it's not really a loss, it's a deficit,
It's a deficit, yeah.
correct?
Yes.
But that's for 11-12 and 12-13.
No, sir, that's just for 12-13.
11-12, I did take the $2 million out of our current number, so the $70 million projects the loss that we're going to have in the 11-12 fiscal year.
If I were to think of an $11 million deficit for 11-12 and 12-13, am I in the ballpark?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And at our work study, we talked about a $9 million for 11-12.
No, for 12-13.
For 12-13. Actually, I think it was a little higher than that, but yeah.
Yeah, and Tanya, just for clarity, this year's budget, 11-12, we started with 9-something.
The original, yes.
The original. Now that we've rolled up our sleeve and tried to find savings where we could, we think that's down to more around 2, correct? And that 2 is in that number to take out of the fund balance. So I think Mr. Short's point was, it's 11 out of over 2 years if we had to take it out.
Yes.
That's correct.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is just projection if we continued with a $9 million deficit each year moving forward. You can see how quickly we would end up in a situation where we're below what we really need for operations to make it until we get tax collections. It happens in 2014, starts getting close to our target of at minimum of 90 days.
And I think this illustrates a point, we've talked about this quite a bit. Utilizing $9 million of our fund balance is a lot. I mean, it shouldn't be taken lightly. But it doesn't put the district in an immediate financial crisis. In fact, the district is in such sound financial condition, utilizing $9 million of fund balance has virtually no immediate financial ramifications. But what we do need to continue to be aware of, and our board's a knowledgeable board, that cannot be a sustainable situation. If we continue to have to do nothing differently after this, somewhere around 2017 or 2018, things start getting to be pretty uncomfortable. A lot of things will have to happen between now and then. one, the legislature will meet a couple of times between now and then, and I believe, candidly, our graph is significantly ahead of a lot of other school districts' graphs. They're going to reach the bottom of the barrel. A lot of school districts in Texas are going to reach the bottom long before we do. Something will have to give at the state level. I mean, there's just no doubt in my mind. The other thing that we, and we'll talk about it as much as you like, but at some point, we reach some kind of critical point of identifying how much longer can we survive without at least addressing the possibility of increasing our own tax rates here locally. And ultimately, the more hurtful or more systemically painful and hurtful continued reductions in our own operations.
With the $9 million deficit 12-13 and the $2 million deficit 11-12, don't the numbers show that we would still have 115 days worth of money in the fund balance?
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
And isn't it music to my ears that the experts say 60 to 90 days is a recommended quantity of days? And Mr. Hyatt, isn't 115 higher than 90?
Well, sir, I don't have a Bible to put my hand on.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And I do think, Matride, it's important to point out the fact that we lost revenue. You have to remember that. That $11 million that we are in the hole is because the state reduced our revenue pretty close to that amount, and over 2 years closer to about 20.
Yes, sir. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't do an illustration, but we've talked about it quite a bit. If we were still receiving the same funds we were receiving even 2 years ago, we would have significantly surplus budget.
But if pigs had wings, they would fly.
Absolutely. That's true.
Okay.
That's why we didn't put a slide in about it.
We would also like to continue the discussion of a potential raise or compensation adjustment and the impact it would have if we do nothing on our current hiring schedule, as well as different increments of pay adjustments and the impact it could potentially have on our hiring schedule. The question was brought up last time about what other districts were doing, and so we did perform an informal, unofficial survey, and this is the information we were able to obtain about what was happening in the area or being proposed in terms of pay adjustments.
While you're looking at what other districts are doing, I'll like to talk a little bit about what Ms. Tillman was talking about, the impact on our new hire salary schedule and what that means to us. If we want teachers that are currently working in the school district to make more than someone we're hiring brand new with the same level of experience, if we don't give any raise, we literally have to lower our new hire schedule. It makes sense when you think about it in terms of a brand-new teacher that we hired right out of college last year making a specific dollar amount. If we don't give raises, that teacher will be still making that exact same dollar amount. If we hire another new teacher with no experience, she'll be making the same as the one that now has 1 year experience here. Philosophically, we think it makes a lot of sense to pay a teacher with a year experience a little bit more than a teacher with no experience. So to make that happen, you literally have to lower the beginning salary. So now, even though the teacher from last year didn't get a raise, they'll be making more than the one that we're hiring this year. Over a long term, that has a pretty negative effect in our ability to attract new teachers to the profession.
If we did nothing to the salary of new hires, do we feel that we're at a competitive disadvantage for securing new hires?
Well, I'll address that a little bit. Ms. Garza, our Director of HR, is back there, and she knows a little bit more on the insight in terms of the recruiting wars out there. It probably lowers us a little bit in the market average by not adjusting the new hire. We believe we have a lot to offer people coming to the district, and so if we stay competitive, we believe it will not impact us too dramatically, but over time it certainly could. I mean, eventually that is a factor, but right now...
For 12-13, would we no longer be competitive if we did nothing to new hire salary?
Well, that's a good question, and it kind of depends on what everybody else does, and what everybody else is in terms of hiring the number. You know, if there's not many openings, then it doesn't put you at that competitive of a disadvantage. You know, places like Frisco, places like Northwest that are still growing and paying more, they're going to hire more teachers and they're going to pay them more. They're going to attract away from some of the very best. Sure. In the internal Metroplex, we're all about the same, and so we're staying about right there with them. I think Irving will be a little bit ahead of us if they give that raise. Richardson will be a little bit below us unless they give their raise is a little unique. They're given a one-time, so I'm not sure how it's going to impact their teacher schedule. So when we look at it, we're obviously looking at the people that are doing a very good job with the academic performance as well as staying within a financial, within their financial means, and that's Richardson and HEB. So we want to make sure we can compete with those two.
Okay, let me tell you the struggle that's going on in my mind. I'm considering 4 of us, or 7 of us, as the owner of our professional franchise, and that you and your staff are the general manager. And we know that we have to fill certain positions with new hires. What's going through my mind is, if we do nothing with the compensation for new hires, have we relegated our general manager to a situation where the quality of the performers that we're going to be able to obtain is going to draw our team down?
I think that's an excellent question, Mr. Shore. Probably hard to answer, and you could make a prediction, yes, if you just based it totally on money. However, I think you have to look...
Rounds that we do?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that's a big part of it. They realize there's some professional development here. There's some things for I guess, you as an educator besides necessarily the starting salary. But over time, I think, is the one you got to be careful of. If over time you continue to be the lowest, then you're going to eventually have a marketing problem.
I'm just talking about 12, 13?
You're just talking about for 1 year. I think that our staff would concur. We believe we can maintain our competitive edge in the recruiting for 1 year with a flat new hire. Lowering it might put us at a disadvantage, but a flat new hire, we think we can stay competitive. And then obviously, we've got to look to the future that it can't, you know, it's got to move somewhere depending on the market.
I'm
Yeah.
talking 12, 13.
But then if you talk about leaving it flat, you go back to the situation that you were referring to when we first started, or earlier in this conversation, where you have a teacher with a year's experience. In that first year, I think you learn a whole lot.
Absolutely.
Being paid exactly the same amount that your teacher with no experience has.
Yes, that's exactly true.
There's no increase in
Yeah.
compensation.
Correct.
Yes, if we do not make if we don't increase compensation for our existing staff, that would occur, absolutely.
And what Richardson is doing is getting around both of those issues. They don't raise their starting salary. They don't raise any salary, except if you're on the payroll, you get a 2% bump.
Yes, ma'am.
One time.
That's what it appears to be.
Bonus.
Yeah, that's what it appears to be in their strategy there with that, and we're not sure, you know, what that is, but obviously they're unique from everybody else, that they're doing a one-time.
It doesn't commit you ongoing.
True.
Board members, are there any other questions about the budget presentation? We do have...
Just a few more, sorry.
Oh my gosh, insurance.
There's also an agenda item to discuss student insurance that has been brought up on several occasions. The estimates did come in slightly higher. The original budget was $100,000. When the estimates came in, it did go up to $114,000. We did try to get some numbers on the students impacted, and we looked at the largest groups, which would be the high school athletes, the middle school athletes, band drill teams, and that would be approximately 6,100 students if you look at those groups of kids.
A little background to this item, and not to make it more difficult than it already is for you, but for those of us who've been around a long time, will remember some of the conversation and philosophy behind providing this level of insurance for our student athletes and students in activities. And it's not a requirement. There's no legal mandate that our district does that. In fact, many districts don't. In fact, there had to be specific legal authorization to allow us to do it, because without the specific authorization, it would actually be illegal for us to provide insurance for anyone, even not only students. So there's actually a code section that not only identifies it, but it allows schools to elect to do it. That it specifically says the district may provide this type of insurance. But a lot of the conversation around this coverage related to the fact that a growing number of our student population has significant financial issues. And for them to have the ability to participate and do so in a comfort level equal to a lot of other kids, they needed a little bit of some bridge help. And there are some kids that a broken arm on the football field could make a serious impact on their home situation. And several years ago, we had a board that felt like our students, unfortunately, when you have high-activity sports, lots of kids running around real fast, as safe as we try to be, there are going to be kids get hurt, and we want to try to make that not to be too dramatically impactful to those families. This is a tough one for me, and that's why we raised this to a level of board awareness. $100,000 savings isn't insignificant, but I felt like it was important that we had just a tiny touch of dialogue of why it was there in the first place.
Could we exclude cheerleaders from one particular high school?
The reason we expanded it to cheerleaders, at one time it was only football. It was just football.
That was a facetious.
I know.
Inside joke.
But the reason it was expanded to those other programs is, for those of you who've got an insurance background or know about insurance, football is where the most injuries occur. Frankly, we can cover all of them for just a tiny bit more than we can cover just football anyway. So we felt like it was a good deal.
And Mr. Hyatt, for clarification, that 114, it is in the budget currently?
Correct.
For next steps, we do have agenda items for potential action on a pay adjustment. We also have the insurance item. If we have decisions on those items, we'll update our estimates and bring forward a final budget in June. We'll set the date for a board meeting in late August to adopt the budget and the tax rate. We'll receive the final estimated tax roll in July so that we can perform our calculations, post the required notices, and then be able to have the hearing and adopt the budget. And also, we've already started looking and investigating the impact of a tax ratification election in terms of the recapture and what the estimates would hold for us moving forward if that becomes a possibility.
Thanks.
And that concludes the presentation.
May I ask a question? Back on the insurance, looking at our last 3 years of claims history, would we be better off classifying ourselves as self-insured?
Maybe. I mean, again, knowing
Of course, all you
insurance-
need is one catastrophic.
Roll the dice.
Yeah.
All you need is one catastrophic.
Yeah. And again, not to minimize $30,000 or so, that's not a giant leap to have that coverage. I would suggest that the process makes it more sensible if we want to do it.
If we're going to do it, we ought to do it with insurance, not self-insurance, lest you get that one catastrophic. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and we are covering catastrophic for football under a separate policy for, so,
Right.
which is the, I guess, has the greatest chance of being an astronomical
Right.
claim. Yeah.
Yes. Board members, any other questions or comments?
I'll go on.
Sure.
A 1% increase in compensation, excluding new hires. cost the district how much money?
It was 1.4 when we were estimating for all positions.
Which is 3 days of the fund balance.
Yeah,
Pretty close.
just a little less. Ms. Stillman is just trying to add to it.
535 is a day. In case you're wondering.
That 1.4 also is, just make real clear, that's all employees, which includes the federally funded stuff. So for general fund, which is the one we really tend to talk about most and what we really, was about what, 1.3?
Yes.
And that would be a 1% of actual.
Right.
Everybody's actual.
We talked about the new hire schedule too, just as a rule of thumb, if you're thinking about this, because of the steps between the salary levels of the new hire schedule, in order to solve the problem of not having an impact on a new teacher versus a teacher that's been here a year, you really have to give about a 1.5% raise in order that we don't have to ratchet down the new hire schedule some. 1.5% raise.
I'm not understanding. If the board's decision is to give current employees an increase, but not new hires,
Correct.
haven't you created separation between the veteran teacher with any experience and the rookie?
Wish I had a visual of this, because I'm going to be drawing in space to help you, but if you have a 0-year experienced teacher, somebody just out of college, they haven't worked in any, and they come to work for us, this is not a real number, so don't take it as such, but let's say we were paying that person $45,000 for a brand-new teacher. They come to work for us for a year, and you give them a 1% raise. Now they're making $45,450. On our schedule, a 1-year experience teacher will start, that worked at Louisville last year, and their husband moved down here, they came to work for us. Our schedule right now is structured that first-year teacher we would pay $45,500, which is $500 more than the 0-year teacher that was here last year with a 1% raise.
When I talk about new hires, in my mind, I'm talking about rookies. They haven't worked anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct, but I think, as Mr. Travis ran it, but each year's experience has a monetary amount to it, and so if you've taught for 2 years, you come in at our 2-year scale. If we didn't, depending on the raise, we might have to lower that too, or the people here in the district would be making less than the 2-year.
And a solution,
It's complicated.
It is complicated. A solution to your problem, we could leave the 0 years experience at no change and not lower it, but we would have to shrink the increments between the levels of experience for every year.
I hope 6 other people here understand what you're talking about.
You really have to, when we say new hire, you're really talking about the whole new hire schedule from 0 years all the way up, that it has to be adjusted in order for the existing people to continue to have some separation from that. And as Mr. Wright said, it kind of factors out each year a little differently because of our past year's raises and where we were and what we did with it. So it is complicated. So.
Thank you, Ms. Tillman.
Does the Richardson model have any appeal to anybody where there's a 1.5 or 2% longevity bonus, if you would?
I think it does, Ms. Chaffin. I would like to do a work study, though, and look at it a little bit closer and look at lots of different variables of that if we were going to do it. You know, typically in districts, Houston, for example, when they do that, it's a performance-based issue and it's a one-time thing, you know, versus a cost of living kind of increase. And so I would recommend we do a comprehensive kind of work study and really look at all different factors of compensation to give us time. I mean, we could put something together with it, but, you know, on the surface, the advantage is it doesn't commit you, absolutely.
Right.
But you're still going to have the new hire problem the next year, so you're going to have some...
Have to address it sometime.
Sometime, yeah.
Just postponing the pain.
When are you going to address it, and how are you going to address it to make that difference? So, but it is somewhat attractive in terms of the fact that it kind of guarantees that your fund balance is not going to incrementally keep going down with the one lump sum.
Would it be something that would make sense to consider so that you have a longer period of time to more thoughtfully look at what you want to do long-term?
I believe so. I believe it would. I think it gets back a little bit to Mr. Shore's original. How does that change our competitiveness in the marketplace?
Right.
You know, and then the next year you have to infuse more to get you caught back up. So I think it just requires a little bit more of analysis before we'd be sure that that's a recommendation we'd want to make.
And what's percolating in my mind is, I think that sends a message that is not the correct message. When I first started sitting up here, I made reference to that this is the Titanic. And it's because of the institutional mechanism of districts being funded. And the Richardson model makes me think, we think we're taking on water, but the pumps right this moment are keeping us from going any deeper. And candidly, I don't feel that way about this district.
No.
Mr. Hyatt and I may differ philosophically on how much should be in his fund balance, okay? It's okay if his hair gets gray. It's not okay if Dr. Mayer and her staff, their hair get gray.
Absolutely.
And we're way above where we need to be in the fund balance.
Right.
And we must not forget, our goal is for achievement to go up. So, yeah, absolutely.
What are we here for?
Right.
I love that guy.
He's already taken.
Just a follow-up comment on the one-time payment deal at Richardson, not to draw many more circles and numbers in the air, but that actually puts another twist on new hire impact. It essentially, the one-year teachers didn't get a raise, so if you don't lower the new hire schedule, then you're forced to give a compounding raise next year anyway.
And when and how do you ever catch up?
When and how do you catch up? Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. So, Mr. Hart, do you want to kind of see where we are right now in terms of these numbers and this budget, as well as later on the compensation agenda item?
Well, this isn't an action item, but I think what Dr. Burns is getting at is we're rapidly approaching, as I said, summer months and the time to do an additional work. If you'll recall, in your work session, the $9 to $10 million range had the great majority of support from the board of being an acceptable level of fund balance, use of fund balance this year. There were three elements to that work session, one being the $9 to $10 million fund balance use was a target. One was that we would continue dialogue about compensation, as we just had. And the third was that while a TRE was probably in our future, not for this year, and so we have effectively tabled that conversation for this year, but as in Ms. Tillman's presentation, we haven't forgotten it. We believe it is by definition in our future, because the state's created that as the mechanism for the long-term funding mechanism for local school districts. So while we're not asking for a vote, we are telling you that at the staff level, we believe we are coming to closure. We have two agenda items later in the meeting for you to consider, and with the exception of those two items, we are compiling this budget as it's been presented tonight, and we feel like that's in compliance with the direction you've given us. And we're asking if there's any dramatic change in that position. We need to hear thoughts tonight so we can be prepared to deal with them for the next board meeting, which will be our last meeting before we consider adopting the budget.
Board members?
Well, there's an action item.
It's not an action item.
Those two items are
He's
things
just-
left hanging, but other than those, we're just
Thing.
asking for any other.
Mr. Good?
Point of clarification for me. I thought we were going to discuss some numbers and what their impact would be if we were to talk about 1%, 1.5%, or 2%.
We will in the compensation element.
That's going to be in the action item.
Okay, I want to make sure we weren't overlooking.
Yeah, I think what we're, at this point with the budget and the numbers kind of is this the right direction? Based on our work study and based on where we are now, the compensation discussion aside.
The action item.
Yeah,
Right.
aside,
Excluding
that
the
kind of drives the next piece of that when you'll get to that, but that we'll work with this number and continue to massage it. The compensation number is going to change it.
Yes,
So.
right.
I think so.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. At this time, we'd like to move item 3D. We think some of y'all may be here for that. Selection of, rather than moving forward 3E and 3F, we'll do 3D. Selection of middle school and elementary school principals. Dr. Burns?
Thank you, Ms. Klein, members of the board. I want to thank our audience for being here tonight. You know, three critical pieces of the work: instructional practice, the resources we have to fund that, and then the personnel in place. And so tonight, you know, our instructional leadership at our campus level, obviously, we believe is critically important because they support the teachers in making that instruction happen and continue to improve, which results in high student achievement. So to give this some context, there are obviously some changes within the district and people retiring and doing things, so I'm going to make those announcements for the audience and the board. Although they have already received this information, I will list the reassignments, which does not require any board action, but for our public and our audience to hear. And then we'll get into the actual board action, which will be to approve new principal positions for elementary and middle school tonight. I do want to take a moment to recognize our retiring principals and their service in the district real quick, so I'm going to read their names, and at the end we'll acknowledge them with a round of applause. But Dr. Les Black from Blaylock Middle School is retiring after 15 years in CFB. Walter Peterson is retiring after 22 years serving CFB as principal at June Thompson and Bernice Freeman Elementary. Jim Cunningham retired earlier this year after 30 years in CFB, serving as principal at Rosemead, Tom Landry, and Fresno Elementary. Abby McCone is retiring after 32 years of service in CFB. She started really young. She wanted me to say that. But after 32 years in CFB as principal at June Thompson, Janie Stark, and Las Colinas Elementary. And Kathy Ferris, after 33 years in CFB, that's just as an employee. She spent all her life here as a student and growing up. But 33 years in CFB as principal at Country Place Elementary. So please help me recognize our retiring principals. Okay, moving on. With that, obviously it created some vacancies for us to address in our principal roles. And with that, we always look at reassignments. We always look at an opportunity to help, you know, change the team a little bit and move people around to help strengthen us overall. People have different levels of experience and different backgrounds that help us do that. And so I want to acknowledge our principals who have taken on that reassignment. It's never easy to be reassigned and go to a different campus. But we really appreciate our campus leadership for doing that and continuing to move the instructional work forward. So I'm going to start with Miss Lori Parker. We'll be moving from Dave Blair Elementary to Fresno Elementary. And we'll clap for them in just a minute. Again, these are the reassignments. Kathy Grebe, who could not be here tonight, her father's having some medical procedures, but Kathy Grebe, who is the principal at Sheffield Primary, will become the principal at Country Place Elementary, and we will actually combine Sheffield's into one school, much like McLaughlin Strickland. So Amy Miller will lead Sheffield Primary and Sheffield Intermediate in the future, with Kathy Grebe going to Country Place. Janet Restivo, Dr. Restivo, as you know, has been at Kelly Pre-K as a principal. Kelly Pre-K has been dissolved into its feeder pattern and its elementary schools. Therefore, there is no Kelly Pre-K. And Dr. Restivo will be reassigned to Bernice Freeman Elementary. Lance Hamlin, the principal at Tom Landry Elementary, will be reassigned to Blaylock Middle School. And then we have one other reassignment to the central office level, and that is Benita Gordon, principal from McWhorter, Catherine McWhorter Elementary, will become our director of elementary personnel. And those are our reassignments for the 2012-2013 school year. And now, Ms. Klein, members of the board, now, this does require board approval because you will be approving positions new to the principalship, personnel new to the principalship. I'm going to read all of these as well again in total, and then the board can make a motion to approve the list as presented. And we'll start with elementary. I'll begin with Ms. Aviance Jones. Ms. Jones is here. Ms. Jones, would you stand up so the audience can see you? She is currently assistant principal at Kenton Sheffield, and she will be, her assignment will be at Las Colinas Elementary. Aviance Jones. Go ahead and stand, Ms. Jones. So we get them all in total, so if you'll just remain standing. Next is Ms. Imelda Akala. Ms. Akala is here. Currently the assistant principal at McWhorter Elementary, and her assignment will be Tom Landry Elementary. Next, Ms. Kim Chow, currently assistant principal at Central Elementary, will be assigned to Dave Blair Elementary. One quick comment about Ms. Chow, she's kind of like Ms. Ferris. She's grown up here, student here, now principal, and I plan to spend the rest of her life here, so thank you, Ms. Chow. And last, we have our outside candidate, who's not currently employed with CFB, but we are proud to recommend to you tonight Ms. Yanette Cardoza. Ms. Cardoza is here as well. She is currently employed as assistant principal in Louisville ISD, and she will be assigned to Catherine McWhorter Elementary. So, board members, the administration recommends approval of elementary principals as presented.
Ms. Klein?
Ms. Chaffin?
If I may, I'd like to recommend that the board approve the recommendation of the administration.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Shore. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? That is unanimous.
Congratulations, ladies. Next agenda item will be for approval of middle school principals, and we'll begin with Ms. Stephanie Cherney, currently the associate principal at R.L. Turner High School, and her assignment will be Vivian Field Middle School. And next, Ms. Melanie McGee, currently associate principal at Ranchview High School, and her assignment will be Ted Polk Middle School. So, Ms. Klein, members of the board, the administration recommends approval of middle school principals as presented.
Mr. Shore had his hand up way long ago. Mr. Shore?
Ms. Klein, it gives me great pleasure to get Stephanie Cherney away from the phone near me. So I move that the board approve those two recommendations.
Ms. Watton?
A second.
And we have a motion, a second. All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Congratulations. If I could make one more comment, obviously, we hate to lose our principals that have been with us for a while, but we know that time comes for all of them, and we appreciate their service, but we also know that we have some new ones coming in that will bring energy and excitement to it, and under Dr. Mayer's leadership and our two assistant superintendents for secondary and elementary schools, that we will provide them the coaching and the training to continue to help them have all our students achieve at high levels. So congratulations to all of you tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Burns, for the work you and your staff do in making these selections and recommendations to us. We're going to take a brief recess for those who do not want to continue the evening with us, but not yet. I have to say something. We will reconvene. We'll reconvene at 9:50 for agenda item 3A, audience for guests. If you wish to address the board, you may fill out the form found on the table outside the door. Give it to Ms. Sharon Scrivener. They're excited. Well, do you blame them?
Can you just
Yeah. We're at item 3A, board operations, audience for guests. Ms. Scrivener, are there any audience for guests?
No, ma'am, there are not.
That takes us to agenda item 3B, consent agenda. 3B1 is election of personnel. 3B2, consider out-of-state travel requests for METSA Fast Track RC students to travel to Kannapolis in North Carolina, May 18th to 20th, 2012, to attend the 1080 Student Racing Challenge NASCAR STEM League 2012 National Finals. 3B3, consider out-of-state travel requests for Vivian Field and DeWitt Perry Middle School 8th grade students to travel to Washington, D.C., Jamestown, and Williamsburg, Virginia, May 11th to 14th, 2012. 3B4, consider accepting financial report for February and March 2012 and tax report for March 2012. 3B5, consider accepting quarterly investment report for the quarter ending February 23rd, 2012. 3B6, consider accepting report on status of tax increment finance zones report. 3B7, consider all matters incident and related to the issuance and sale of Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District and Limited Tax School Building and Refunding Bonds, Series 2012, including the adoption of an order authorizing the issuance of such bonds, establishing parameters for the sale and issuance of such bonds, and delegating certain matters to authorized officials of the district. 3B8, consider RFP number 12-03-221-1 for career tech materials and equipment. 3B9, consider RFP number 12-04-0313 for sale of surplus instructional materials. 3B10, consider approval of purchase of data backup and video hosting services. 3B11, consider approval of purchase of computers for MGEC. 3B20, consider approval of purchase of measures of academic progress MAP license. 3B13, consider approval of purchase of Plato learning software. 3B14, consider purchase of E2020 courseware license. 3B15, consider approval of purchase of reporting analysis and assessment management software. 3B16, consider approval of purchase of HVAC additions for Mary Grimes Education Center. 3B17, consider acceptance of purchasing report for the period April 5th, 2012 to May 3rd, 2012. 3B18, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 09-05-141-3 for paint supplies and equipment. 3B19, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-04-082-2 for custodial paper products. 3B20, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-03-251-2 for custodial supplies and equipment. 3B21, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 09-03-261-3 for solid waste and recycling services. 3B22, instructional materials allotment and text certification. 3B23, consider approval of minutes of Board of Trustees work study meeting held April 5th, 2012. 3B24, consider approval of minutes of Board of Trustees regular meeting held April 5th, 2012. 3B25, consider approval of minutes of Board of Trustees work study meeting held April 19th, 2012. Board members, those are the consent agenda items tonight. Are there any items the board members would like to pull or just to discuss further? Or staff? Mr. Good?
Item 14.
Mr. Hyatt?
Item 7 for a little additional information.
Ms. Chaffin?
I need to pull 23 and 24 as I was not present for those meetings and can't vote on that.
Okay.
Ms. Klein, I'd like to recommend that the consent agenda be approved as amended.
We have a motion. Mr. Shore?
Second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor? All those opposed? That is unanimous. Mr. Hyatt, number 7?
Yes, Ms. Klein, members of the board. This is an item dealing with the sale of bonds related to some bond funds for construction, as well as the refunding of some outstanding school bonds. If I would, I'd like to introduce Mr. David Medanich from First Southwest Company, our financial advisor, Mr. Kristen Savant from Fulbright and Jaworski, our legal counsel, my second favorite lawyer in the room. And if this time, if
Just the room?
yeah. At this time, Mr. Medanich will come forward, just give you a brief outline of what we're proposing to you tonight. I think the board's well aware of it. We talked last board meeting about the projects that we were going to use these funds for, and Mr. Medanich will give you a little bit about the structure and recommended agenda item. David?
Thank you, Mark. As you'll recall, at the last meeting, we discussed the possibility of coming back to you at this meeting for a parameters resolution. And what we're considering is the sale of around $54.7 million worth of bonds. $25 million of that would be for new projects, and the remainder of it is for refunding bonds. The parameters resolution has parameters of that you won't have a true interest cost exceeding 4%. If you did it today, it's about 2.9%. And the refunding must produce a present value savings of at least 4.25%, and it actually produces about 6.65%, which in terms that matter to you is around $3 million, or about $165,000 a year. I think when we came to you at the last meeting, it was down to maybe $2 million. It was almost $1 million difference. The market's improved, and we're hopeful that we'll come in about that level. And so at this point, if you choose to proceed, then we'll have rating meetings next week. And then as soon after that as possible, given these parameters stay as they are and the market stays strong, we would intend to sell the bonds probably a couple of weeks after, about 3 weeks from now, 2 to 3 weeks from now.
So the 14th through the 21st week.
And this allows you to do that at any time once you meet those parameters.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
If we approve this resolution, or this action,
It's in order.
It's an order.
is there any way that we could end up spending more in debt? In other words, the reason to do this is because we're purchasing debt at a lower interest rate.
Right. Well,
I may not have said that precisely accurately, but we're redeeming bonds at a interest rate that will be lower than they currently exist.
you're doing two things, and that is one of them. One of them, you're selling the new bonds at whatever that rate will be, the $25 million, and we're selling them both together for an economies of scale. On the refunding, you have to have, pursuant to this, you have to save at least it's about $1.9 million, or you can't even do the transaction.
So by doing this, we can't end up incurring more debt than already exists.
No. Well, except for the $25 million.
The new bonds, yes.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
But on the old bonds, if we don't save money, we don't do it.
Correct.
Ms. Klein?
Ms. Chaffin?
Are there any other questions? I'm ready to make a motion.
No.
Okay. I move that we adopt this order authorizing the issuance of Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Building and Refunding Bonds, Series 2012, establishing the parameters for the sale and issuance of such bonds, and delegating certain matters to authorized officials within the district.
Mr. Good?
I second that.
All those in favor? All those opposed? That is unanimous. Mr. Good, number 14.
Agenda item 14 is a pilot program, and it's a different method of instruction also. And because it's a pilot program, there must be a short-term and also a long-term objective or experience to be gained, maybe I should say. And I just want additional clarification on that. Dr. Byrne?
Yes. I'll let Dr. Mayer speak to that. Mr. Good, as you know, we were doing some restructuring with Mary Grimes and some other things, and we want to make sure that we have the right tools in place to meet those students' needs, and Dr. Mayer has more detail to that than I do, so I'll let her speak.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. This year, Mr. Bob Tipton, the principal at Mary Grimes, and I, along with Joe Gillen and Kathy Webb, have talked about restructuring Mary Grimes, and we've looked at some different options. The students there currently use a lot of technology and like using that technology to learn and for their courses, and we looked at some other districts, what they're doing with alternative education, and we have observed that several of them use a blended model of having the course software online and then having the instructor in the room to help teach concepts, provide direct instruction when needed, but really a very individual approach to students taking courses online. We observed E2020 at midwinter, in a session, and the district that was using that, the person that has my position in that district talked with me after that session and said they had been very pleased with E2020, felt like it is rigorous, felt like it prepared students for ELC, student-friendly, and so we came back and had a presentation for our educational services team. Went through Dr. Burning's digital review, and he was aware of E2020 and felt that we could support that. And so after we had a critical look and the coordinators looked at the content, we decided that we would use that as a main vehicle for instruction, this online software, or the software program, courseware, for our courses at Mary Grimes. And we're piloting it next year at Grimes, but with an eye on how students perform, feedback from that campus, with the understanding that we could use that at other campuses as well. We realize that technology is and will continue to play a huge role in student learning, and we want to make sure that we're looking for ways to integrate that into the learning experience of CFB.
But it also means, because it's virtual, there's some benefit. That is, it then becomes a student-led instruction, and therefore it may help us on personnel count.
Yes, we have. We did ask Mr. Tipton at Mary Grimes, just like we have at all of our other secondary campuses over the last years, to look at that staffing and trim that staffing. We've been doing that now for several years, and he did that. So we will have a smaller staff at Grimes next year.
Okay, let's talk about the long-term possibility. Being that it's a pilot program, we go through the process, and it's at Mary Grimes. Let's assume it's highly successful. Do we need a Mary Grimes anymore? Can this not move back to what possibly could be those students' traditional high school?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we're always looking at whether we're talking about alternative school or comprehensive high schools. Do we have the right structure and providing the right services for our students for the 21st century? So I think that's a question we'll be annually looking at and examining.
Okay. And then finally, does it not give us at least a foot in the door to experiment with virtual classrooms?
I think so.
Which will give us some insight to where we might be from 5 years, 10, 20 years out.
Yes, and we've been doing some of that, district-wide. Dr. Burning could probably speak to that. We have a lot of kids that take courses online, but this is the first time that we're going to do this at an entire school.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, Mr. Good, what I believe we saw in E2020 was a more rigorous program that we believe, because they're still going to have to pass STAR and end of course, we've got to have something that's preparing them for that. So
exactly,
we need more rigor there, and so that's what this provides. So.
Okay.
So that's item 3B14. Mr. Good?
I guess I was the only one who had a question, but anyway, I move that we approve the purchase of E2020 courseware license.
Mr. Short?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. So that brings us to we already covered item 3C and 3D tonight.
You need to do 23 and 24.
Okay, 23 and 24.
You got one over there.
I'm trying. Mr. Short.
Move that we approve agenda items 3D, is that right?
B.
3B, 23 and 24 and 25.
No, 23 and 24.
23 and 24.
Thank you.
A second.
Ms. Watton is seconding that. All those in favor?
And I will abstain.
And Ms. Chaffin is abstaining. Ms. Watton, did you vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So now that takes us, we've already done 3C and 3D to 3E.
Yes.
Consider all matters related to the 2012-13 budget, including compensation adjustment. Dr. Burns?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Klein. Members of the board, as we talked about earlier during the budget presentation, this needed to be, at least at our request, an action item, so we know how to move forward with the budget. And also, I think it's the fair thing for our employees to know if we are going to have one or not have one, and we can plan accordingly with our system to incorporate that, because there's a lot of things that have to happen with us with 12-month and 11-month and 10-month employees. So, Mr. Hyatt, you want to add to that?
You hit the important topics. I mean, you don't have to take action on this tonight, but what we're suggesting, and this comes from some past history with past boards, is that by allowing you the opportunity to take this action tonight, we can give our employees information about what's going to be in their future next year. They'll know what their compensation is. We can also give our personnel department information about exactly what new hire schedules are going to be, so then when they talk to new applicants and such. So given the knowledge that a 1% raise to all our employees costs approximately $1.3 million for the general fund, which is the thing that we're probably most focused on. So if you want to consider giving more or less than that, you can just extrapolate however many percentage points you would like to do, multiplied by the $1.3 million to arrive at a cost. To reiterate, we're at approximately, with no compensation, the budget that we have developed so far is just over a $9 million deficit. So you know what the district's financial situation is. We've talked about the impact to our new hire schedule. You know, if we want to maintain the same level of new hire schedule, then it would require approximately approximately a 1.5% raise. You know, we could adjust some of the steps and some things that may be slightly different, but that's about what it requires, so we don't have to adjust the new hire schedule at all. We talked in the prior meeting, and I think it's worth reiterating, and Dr. Burns has mentioned this in a couple of times in his discussions with staff and the board. Our employees didn't get a raise last year, but their costs went up physically. I mean, we actually had an increase in district insurance premiums last year. We don't take that lightly. Even it was not gigantic. It obviously didn't destroy anybody. But our employees that were working here year before last, literally had a smaller take-home pay last year in the current year we're in. So I think it's worth remembering that. The ability to recruit and retain new teachers, some discussion earlier, how would that impact our ability to attract teachers next year? You know, I think the teaching profession in Texas is in such turmoil right now. The state legislature has already done as much damage as possible to the morale and credibility of our profession. And while I don't think it would substantially harm it for one more year for us not to increase our new hire schedule, I think this is a long-term conversation that obviously the board's aware of, that at some point, the state and we as a district are going to have to realize that if we want to continue attracting bright young people to this profession, we can't keep confusing them with difficulties in finances and not giving them any raises. We discussed with the peers, you know, just as a general statement, in the area, districts that we've talked to are giving raises ranging from 3%. I think at Frisco is the highest number I've seen, and there are a couple districts that have already, to some degree, committed to no raise. But it seems like 1.5% to 2% is not that unusual in the area right now. With that, my suggestion, and the reason we have that on the agenda tonight, is that if the board anticipates providing a raise, I would recommend that you consider a raise. And while it's not a firm recommendation, a 1.5% raise would be a reasonable recommendation for you to consider tonight.
Board members, Mr. Short?
I know what I want to do, but I'm not certain for a change if I know how to say it. Because this step thing has got me all discombobulated. So, I would move that we, A, the rookies, people who haven't worked anywhere before, that the starting salary remain what it is now.
Okay.
B, that we give a 1.5% increase in compensation. But I'm understanding, and this is important to me, that if we do that, then the person who's worked at XYZ ISD, coming into CFB ISD, in the same number of years, is compensated at a lower amount than the CFB employee who has worked the same number of years as the XYZ ISD employee.
I believe you got it.
So, I don't know how you say that.
What do you want to have happen about that? I mean, we've always had the philosophy that a year in CFB is a more aggressively developed year.
I want to maintain that.
Okay.
And you will do that
And-
with a 1.5% raise?
Yeah, with 1.5, you will accomplish that because you will give the internal people an increase that will continue to keep them above the external people coming in new.
And the new hire to me is a rookie.
Yeah. But new hire, from the HR purposes, is anybody coming into the district, regardless of their experience. So that's why the scale has to be adjusted, unless you give a 1.5, and then we won't have to adjust it. Isn't that what your calculation
Yes,
is,
sir.
Mr. Hine?
It'll just be a slight difference.
I did some math, and I invite the math whiz to see this. This is about 3.65 days at a 1.5% raise from the fund balance.
I trust you.
Well, that's my math.
Which would still keep us within the recommended.
Now we're down to like 113 and
112,
6
113.
hours.
Right. And that's,
Could I just add a C to yours? You know, since you've got an A and B, right? That we instruct administration to work out the formula.
Can I say something?
I think is that giving them a little flexibility with the guidelines that
Right.
Mr.
The
Shore is setting up to
1.5,
make
I mean,
it work?
The 0, staying the same, 1.5, and then C, letting the administration work out the formula as relating to the steps as it.
Yeah, well, and I think, Ms. Watton, that's correct. If you'll give us, if we need to adjust any new hire schedule of years to make sure that they
Right.
don't come in more, then we'll do that.
Work out the adjustments.
Yeah,
then.
in case we need to.
Back to us.
That gives us as much flexibility and leeway to make it happen where we maintain the integrity of our internal
Right.
pay raise. Yeah.
perfect.
I'd like to add to that if I might. I would love to give the teachers a raise because I know that they deserve, and administration staff as well. But I think it's kind of puts us in a tough situation when we don't know what the state is going to do. I mean, we think what they're going to do. They might, we're in a deficit, so it's kind of hard, I guess, putting ourselves a step backwards if we give a raise, which I'm all for a raise, but I don't, principally, it's you can't really give a raise when you're in the negative, when there's a deficit. I mean, unless we know something, unless we know that it's going to get made up at some point in time. But if we were to do a raise, I mean, I would like to start with the teachers first, and then go from there. But we're a collective body, and everybody has their opinions, but that's my opinion collectively. But I'm all for a raise, but I don't know. Well, I do know principally. I couldn't do it couldn't do it when we have a deficit.
Mr. Shore?
Richard, I think your comments are well taken. Philosophically, and also financially, I don't think we have a deficit. And I'll explain to you why I'm saying that, even though when Tanya had the numbers up there, we used the word deficit, and we talked of deficit of 2 million, 9 million, 11 million. Okay? And I don't disagree that if you just look at the income the revenue sources that we have for the current fiscal year and the revenue sources we're going to have for the next fiscal year, that the amount we're spending and will spend, in particular if we give an increase in compensation, will be greater than the revenue coming in. But I don't understand why we're sitting on 115 days of money when the reason we exist is to educate students. And I dare say, and this is, I don't have the data, but I have my conjecture. I dare say that the amount of money spent per capita, when you adjust for inflation, when Rick Perry was in 8th grade, is greater than is being spent on students today, and the demands that are placed on school districts today are much, much greater than the demands that were placed on school districts when Rick Perry was in 8th grade. And so, yes, the expenditure versus the revenue, there's a deficit. But we're sitting on an amount of money, and I dare say that if we don't use that, we're going to get hit on the head by the legislature saying, we don't need to do anything because you're sitting on a pile of money.
Well, that's what we said last
My
time.
words would be different. When we get to 98 days, my words are different. 98 days shorthand for the amount of money in the fund balance. But we are even at 1.5%. We're 15 days above that. And if you multiply the 15 times 535, that's where we have play, in my opinion. And by the way, I'm just giving you the reasoning behind my thought process.
I understand, no problem.
Ms. Klein?
Ms. Chaffin?
I am one of those people who has not had a raise in 4 years, and I actually have less money now than what I had 4 years ago because of salary reductions. I work for a governmental agency. I am really very proud of this board, our collective boards in history, and of the administration, and in particular, the leadership of Mark Hyatt over the last 15 years that I've been on this board, regarding planning for a rainy day and a very conservative philosophy of how do we budget, what do we spend, how do we look at money, and how do we look at the resources we have to apply to the education of our children. And I believe that Mr. Hyatt's leadership is largely responsible for what is not a great position, but is so much better than so many others. We are so better prepared in this district to weather this storm. You're absolutely right. We don't have as much revenue coming in as we are planning to have expenses going out. I would say that in my experience, and even this year, we planned for a $9 or a $10 million deficit budget, and we're going to come in at $2 million. Certainly, if we look at and pass a salary increase, we're not going to come in at a $2 million or $2 million deficit next year. It'll be more than that. But is it going to be the entire 10 or 11 or $12 million? I don't expect it to be, because this district is so terribly dedicated and creative about finding ways to reduce our expenses while staying focused on our kids and their education and their achievement. I wish that my governmental entity had prepared as well for this kind of storm. And I will also say that my expectation is the state government is not going to have any sympathy if we're always sitting on 115, even 110 days. Now, I think we'll still be on 90 days when there are a lot of other districts that are circling the drain. That certainly would be my plan for this district, but I do think that our staff is maybe not as well prepared to go for 4 years with less money than I had 4 years ago. And I am inclined to want to help them out. Now, we probably should have some discussion. Are we talking just teachers? Are we talking teachers and administrators? Are we talking paraprofessionals and the rest of the staff? And what difference does that make in terms of the size of those numbers?
And also for the record, Mark, I think you're doing doing great leadership for the district, so just want to put that out there. The comment was strictly towards whether or not we could, afford the
Right.
the
I agree. I understand that.
Ms. Chevin, and I think Mr. Hyatt can probably give you some ballpark numbers, but, the majority of our workforce are the teachers.
Right.
So that's going to be the greatest of the raise.
65% or so of our staff are teachers. They're probably slightly higher than the average salary, so probably something in the ballpark of 70 or so percent of any raise would be teacher salary. So
So when you were looking at the 1.3 for 1%, that was including the full staff?
that's full staff.
But it may not save you significantly amount.
Right.
If you did it differently.
Right.
Ms. Klein.
Mr. Goode.
Just additional comment regarding this. There's always the discussion, we get so enamored with this deficit spending, and yet we never stop to think about, are we in the business of being able to generate extra revenue? How does the school district generate every additional revenue to philosophically offset a deficit? We are not in the business of generating revenue. So when we get enamored with this idea of a balanced budget, we have to realize public education does not work that way in the traditional model, because being that we're at the mercy of our state legislature, they pretty much determine how much revenue we get, therefore whatever those numbers are set at. But what's important is to understand also where we sit now with our fund balance and our ability to weather the storm and our tax rate. When you talk to our legislatures in Austin, what do they say? There is no sympathy for public education. Public education has billions of dollars available to them. And we have to make sure that all of our constituents understand how the state looks at this. They look at our fund balance and they're saying already, we may just take, Mr. Shore made reference to this, we may take part of your fund balance and use it for you. Or do we have to come up and force all school districts in the state of Texas to tax at the maximum rate? And then we will talk to you about how sympathetic we should be. We have to sort of set that aside and figure out what we've already talked about. What is best for our school district? What can we do and maintain the quality of education that we are currently providing all of our students? So if we say we need to spend 1.5% to ensure that our educators, one, understand we do appreciate them and we acknowledge their role in being the principal individuals who make us successful in public education and provide us with this high academic achievement. And I look at that and I'm thinking, if I want high academic achievement, how much would I be willing to spend for it? I don't know that anybody can give me a number per student, how much we should spend, based upon the percent of improvement in academic success.
Well, that's because there's nothing out there really publicly that actually puts a dollar figure to education.
That's right, and that's my whole point.
Yeah.
We can't, so we have to be careful how we look at it.
I mean,
Look at the dollars.
there's a bunch of schools of thoughts out there regarding funding and the principles of funding and how many days, and the state may take this, but that's, I agree with some of your points, especially when you talk about, educating our kids and how much funding, but I think we have to concern ourselves with CFB-ISD and our budget, not with the state as a whole and what other districts are doing, financially.
Well, but I agree with you, and I think that's what we're doing. We are looking at our ability to set a budget and how we can establish a budget and realize what the impact is upon the funds that we have available to us that are discretionary funds that we can spend. And our fund balance is discretionary funds for us to decide how we want to spend it.
Ms. Chaffin?
Mr. Hyatt, we used to do an analysis every year of the amount of money that we were spending on a per-student basis, and we haven't really done that recently. Would it be possible for the next time we meet to have a chart that runs that number over, let's say, the last 10 years?
Sure.
I think that would be really interesting, and if we could adjust that for inflation, that would also be a good deal.
I'd be happy to do that. May I suggest, what, better than inflation, because we used to play the game with CPI or some other model of inflation. Our inflation, whether we like to admit it or not, we create ourselves. And our inflation is what raise did we give our staff.
Okay.
And if a better illustration is to deflate the cost per expenditure by the percentage raise we gave, because we really can't control a lot of things. Well, let me rephrase that. If you want to get a measure of actual human effort and purchases and the like, we are making the actual added investment in the teachers, but it didn't add another teacher to the classroom when we did that. That's my point.
Okay, run it and let me see it, because I'm not with it yet.
I will. And the deflation, the adjusting for inflation is the harder part, but it's not. We actually have that model already done.
Okay. I think that would be pretty insightful, not just for the board, but for the public as well, because I think I know what it's going to look like.
Mr. Shore?
I'd like to speak to the issue of, do we segregate a group of employees for an increase versus other groups? I mentioned at a previous board meeting that in the Leadership TASB group that I'm participating in this year, that we went to a district just outside of Corpus Christi. And on the bus, they have written, "Every child deserves my best every day." I don't think we could use the ERG data to discern the import of the janitor, to discern the import of the kitchen staff, to discern the import of the principal secretary. But I have a strong feeling that if any of those folks are upset, if they feel that they have been ignored, if they feel that they have been treated disparately, I'll bet the food's going to taste a little bit worse. I'll bet the floor's going to be a little less clean. And I'll bet some messages don't get filed properly. And candidly, I view CFB-ISD as a family. And in families, you have disagreements. And there's nothing wrong with disagreements, okay? Because they help flush out the best for everybody. My personal philosophy is that if we're going to consider an increase in compensation, that it be across the board. The savings that may occur if we segregate the teachers from the non-teachers. If the sentiment is to increase the compensation of the teachers, we are, I believe, then not going to increase the compensation of about a third of the staff and the lower paid members of the staff. If this is going to be driven by financial constraints, we should do the opposite.
Actually, it'd be the lower paid and some of the higher paid.
Okay, but the bulk is the teachers.
Sure.
The lion's share are the teachers.
The front line share, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I've said what I want to say on that. I'm prepared to make a motion.
Is there any more discussion?
Well, you had a motion on the floor.
You made a motion with A, B, and C?
Second your motion.
Well, but Robert's Rules of Order say that when C gets added, the person who makes the motion has to then say something special.
Okay, Mr. Short, go right ahead.
We actually discussed your motion before we had a second, so
Okay, well,
make it again.
I move that we, without increasing the compensation of people who haven't worked at a school district before. I hope my intent is clear on that.
0-year new hire schedule.
Thank you. That we give a 1.5% increase in compensation with staff directed to make certain that the flexibility exists so that transfer hires, what's the word?
New hires, just new hires.
New hires do not get compensated more than CFB employees when they have the equal number of years of service. Very well.
Did that include C? Was that what I
No.
just heard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Watton?
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor? All those opposed? We have one Mr. Fleming opposed. At this point, we're at 3F, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 11-04-271-3 for student athletic and voluntary insurance. Dr. Burns?
Thank you, Ms. Klein, members of the board. Mr. Hart mentioned a little bit about this in the budget presentation earlier, but we'll go ahead and provide you some more information and make a decision, so.
Right, the
Mr. Hyatt.
agenda item before you actually provides purchasing the insurance. So if you approve this agenda item, then you're in effect telling us to go ahead and buy insurance for our athletes and other participants next year. If you elect not to approve this or just table it and not vote on it, then we would not have the authority to buy the insurance, so we would drop coverage for our students next year. The $114,000 cost, in the current condition of our budget, in the current status of our budget, I believe, hearing the conversation of the board and our conversation in the district, considering the current year situation, I believe it would be in our better interest to go ahead and provide this insurance coverage for our students this year. A lot of impact out there on those fields, and a lot of kids and families struggling to deal with it. The $100,000, again, not minimizing it, that's a lot of money for a lot of our taxpayers, but in the scope of a $200 million budget, I believe this would be in our better interest to provide this coverage.
And Mr. Hyatt, again, it is factored in the current budget, so if
Right, the
you
numbers
approve it,
you-
it doesn't change those numbers.
The numbers you've seen will not change if you provide this coverage. If you elect to pass on it, it will go, the budget will go down slightly.
I think Ms. Chaffin's trying to see what the charge divided by 6,100 students is, because that's what I was wondering, but
50 last time we checked, $50 a student.
What's that?
This is, okay, 122.6 unless I did something wrong. It's 20.
26.
The total cost divided by, you said 6,100 students that are
Oh, they're
benefiting?
covered? Is that right, Janet?
$200 is,
$53, I mean. About $53 what I come up with.
okay. Is the number 114,000 or is the number 122,610?
114 is the basic coverage. We're not recommending at all to drop the catastrophic coverage. That
You're not recommending to drop it?
Correct. We're recommending, even if you want to not cover our students for the basic coverage,
Okay.
we would strongly recommend you continue to carry the catastrophic coverage.
Okay.
That's the coverage if in the unfortunate event that some student had a severe injury on one of our fields, this student would have his medical bills covered.
Okay.
And that's a unusual circumstance, but it has happened.
Yes, it has.
Didn't we have to, seems like when my children were going to school, we had to purchase the insurance.
That would be what we would do if you'd elect not to continue covering it. It would be a student elected.
And it was very inexpensive, if I remember.
What the rates were, Janet? Ms. Truitt, our benefits coordinator, sure, if she'd like to know, we've got some.
I think it's probably about $10 a kid. I had my little league team purchase their own.
Very inexpensive.
The estimated cost for
I know, but we still had to.
football grades 10 through 12, because that is a different premium. There are two plans. They range from $200 and $250. And then for all other sports and activities, the premiums would range from $68 to $99, depending on the plan that the parent chooses.
So if I'm a parent and I have to buy for my child who is a football player, it's in the neighborhood of $210 for the year.
It's one plan is $200 and one plan is $250. The richer plan is $250. And that's for grades 10 through 12 for football.
What's the percentage of the district population that is currently free and reduced price lunch?
Around 62 to 64%.
Is that the same coverage that we're now covering?
Yes, basically it is, yes. It's an excess policy. It's a $25,000 per accident. If a parent does have private coverage, then it pays secondary to the parent's insurance.
And if I can make a comment, we do value students' participation in athletics. We believe that's important. I believe it has an impact on their academics when they're participating and their bodies are healthy. And for our kids, given the percentage of economically disadvantaged, that may exclude some kids from that, and we would hate to do that.
And frankly, some of those are the kids that we really want in sports because
Absolutely.
they have less they unfortunately will frequently have less motivation to excel academically or participate academically if they don't get a shot at playing sports.
Yes, absolutely. The motivation as well as what we know, the benefits of good physical exercise and activity, so.
Mr. Short,
I'm not trying to cut off discussion, but I'm prepared to make a motion.
please go ahead.
I move that we exercise the extension option of RFP number 11-04-271-3 for student athletic and voluntary insurance.
Second.
Ms. Chaffin seconded that motion. All those in favor? Thank you, Mr. Hyatt, for explaining all this to us. At this time, we're at item 4, comments from board members. 4A, comments regarding posted agenda items. Board members, are there any other comments you wish to make at this time? Hearing none and seeing none. Dr. Burns, do we have any closed meeting items for agenda item 5?
No, ma'am, we do not.
And so then we don't need agenda item 6. So hearing none, seeing none, by my determination, we've reached the end of our agenda. And we are adjourned at 10:43 p.m. Thank you.